But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. Oh boy, happy Monday. In case you didn't know, this show is live, and we do it live to include you, of course. And if you find yourself here under odd circumstance, well, let me explain. No, too much. Let me sum up. This is a show where we get together Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and we talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. And as I said, we are live, so we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And like I said, we're taking your phone calls. If you want to be part of the show at any point tonight, you can give us a call at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can also click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. That's the official website. You can find the phone number there, the Discord link there, all the social media, all the things you need, the podcast and everything else. It's all right there. Nice, neat package. And yeah, that's what's up. Okay, well, a couple other things. Let's not jump right into it just yet. Also, please join. So Discord, by the way, is a chat client. It's a voice client. It's a place to hang out. It's come meet lots of swell people that are there, and you'll hopefully find it a little better than I don't know. Let's say Facebook, for instance, because Facebook is all their draconian censorship and Facebook jail and all the rest of the dumb stuff they do. Well, it's a lot better than that because you can share things directly. There's absolutely no censorship, and of course it's free, and you don't have to pay anybody to be part of it. So pretty good stuff. Again, go to troubledminds.org, click the Discord link, and we also have another chat room running in Discord as well. Go to fringe.fm/chat, and that will give you a direct invite to that room as well. I'm trying to watch all of them, all the chats, chats and all the places, and of course be able to read your ideas as we go and try and incorporate them into what's happening tonight. And so there you go. That's exactly what we do. And so I say this time and again, and it's absolutely true, is that the secret weapon of this show is you. Time and again, we have I have start a show, have a particular set of ideas, and sometimes we just go so far out there because everybody contributes and kicks in their own ideas that it turns into something else. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. We'll call that transformative in process, in real time, live, and all the rest of that. So that's why all that's important to me, and that's why we've been doing this, and we're going to keep doing this. So there you go. I think that sums everything up. All right, now, as you know, I'm like I said, I don't like to call myself a master of anything, but let's say that I'm learning about news cycles, and I'm getting better and better at kind of picking things out because, propaganda all the time. And so as a result, when I see something pretty amazing, it's hard for me to pass up to do a show regarding something like this, which we'll get to in just a sec here. But I see something in the news cycles, and sometimes they come rapid fire. It's weird how there's that synchronistic something, right? Where you just saw something not too long ago and it kind of triggered a thought in your brain. And then literally like maybe 10 days later, something happens that really was sort of chasing down that exact thought you had previously based on some other article. It's pretty crazy. So that's what's going on here. And let me explain. So what I mean by that is it was about 10 days ago or so, we did a show on ancient Egypt. And we were discussing, how the pharaohs, maybe how they had these rituals to kind of live forever, right? Sort of the mummification process and all the rest of that stuff. And there was a lot to talk about, of course, as always. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to think about. But in terms of, how that may have occurred, maybe it wasn't about the afterlife. Maybe it wasn't about the mummification rituals. And immortality was actually something that was created through some sort of ritual while the pharaohs were still alive. And that, right, is one of the things that we kind of just barely touched on last show because it was more about the mummification rites and the afterlife and all the rest of that stuff in ancient Egypt. But check this out. So all that said, look at this. Now, I found this today, actually yesterday, of all times, right? Like just after we did this, this is from the Daily Mail. And it may seem similar, but hold on and I'll explain. One of the 6 missing Pharaohs' Sun Temples is found by archaeologists in the Egyptian desert in the most important discovery of the last 50 years. And what is the Pharaohs' Sun Temple, you may ask? Well, let's get to that. Let's get to that. Here we go. So let's just read the article. Archaeologists in Egypt have found proof that they are excavating a rare ancient sun temple, the third ever found and the first to be uncovered in 50 years. These temples, now this is the important part, pay attention here. These temples were built for pharaohs while they were still alive to grant rulers the status of god, in contrast to pyramids, which ensured they were gods in the afterlife as well. It is believed only 6 were built, and so far only 2 have been found. But now archaeologists digging beneath the remains of one of the known sun temples in Abu Ghorab, north of Egyptian archaeology locality Abu Sir, have found proof of a third Egyptian sun temple. And so, of course, right, as usual, like we talked about this not too long ago, and it was an odd one of those, like, Michael Strange just pulling a wild idea out of a simple archaeological find from the reign of Ramses II. They found his treasurer, right, and that's what spawned these wild ideas in my head. But then, not 10 days later, this is announced that they literally found the pharaoh's another of the Pharaoh's Sun Temple, and in that temple itself is where the pharaoh was held in some sort of ritual that ascended their mortal body to godhood. Now, what in the world is this? And that's the weirdness to this, is that some synchronicity here, in that we just talked about this. Like, is it possible that pharaohs are walking around today, right? Like we were kind of kicking that idea into the last show just to stretch the idea quite a bit. And I was like, wow. When I saw this, I was like, come on, this is exactly what we talked about not too long ago, except it was not through like a ritual in a sun temple and alchemy and these these things, it was more kind of discussing the mummification rituals and maybe passing into the afterlife and things like this in more of a, I guess, allegorical way of the afterlife, okay, in immortality inside the afterlife, as that ends up being a thing, right, in that whole mummification and the whole bit, right? The rituals, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is what we were talking about then. But now, if this is exactly what they found in these sun temples of the pharaohs, this is exactly how they supposedly granted godhood to the pharaohs themselves. And it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if maybe you didn't need mummification at all, if you could attain godhood while still alive. And of course, there you go. So this gets me thinking in terms of not just this, okay, with the pharaohs and ancient Egypt's a very, very fun time in history for us to go back and consider all the really nutty stuff that was going on back then, in that they were super advanced for such an ancient civilization. Okay, again, like the greatest wonder of the ancient world was the Great Pyramid, and it's been around for thousands of years. And some people even describe it as being around for thousands more than that. That maybe that thing comes from 10,000 years ago or something. So that's as we start tonight. That's what's on my mind. Now, the crazy part is exactly that we were kind of discussing, like I said, that mummification ritual. Well, no longer. We're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about alchemy tonight. And in the sense that maybe in these sun temples, maybe in a particular spot, let's say, you were able to have some sort of ritual through alchemy, through maybe the crossing of ley lines, the power of the earth, what have you, to create a god out of mortal flesh and blood. So the question I have tonight is, do you think that's even possible? Of course, right, we talk about Robert Bigelow, like I said in the other show, very interested in that consciousness bit. And, you know, these billionaires now, these folks that have tons and tons of money, right, once you have it all and you're getting old, well, the only thing left is to chase that immortality. And so, well... What do you think if they're finding these Pharaohs' Sun Temples where they supposedly were able to bestow this immortality upon a mortal? Of course, a pharaoh, you have to be, right? You have to be the appropriate person. You can't just, as far as I'm aware, just be, granting godhood willy-nilly to whoever wants it, right? That seems a little bit... too easy. So I don't know. And that's the question tonight. Do you think it's possible? Like we've talked about in the past, like using modern technology, right? Through maybe some sort of chemical alteration of the blood in the body, maybe through some sort of a cryogenic state where, you could freeze them and then bring people back once the time is right and technology allows, or in other instances, moving your consciousness into a different vessel, right? Whether that's a robot or who knows, like a golem or something to this effect, right? And so, just like I said, so strange that like this kind of came out of nowhere, sort of out of my imagination, just not that long ago, maybe 10 days or so. But now, tonight, this is exactly what I was talking about then, except it hadn't been discovered. And they're calling this the most important discovery in Egypt in the last 50 years. And, right? So I don't know. It seems like, did we have a hand in some hocus pocus here? Maybe asking the question helped to discover this thing. I don't know. Like maybe just the reporting. I'm not exactly sure. There you go. What's up, Zen Wen says, synchronicities everywhere lately. Yeah, and it seemed odd to me. When I read this article, I was like, it feels like we just did this. But I don't think so. I think instead of Egyptian funeral rites tonight, we're going to do, how about instead, the Pharaohs' Sun Temple and creating an immortal being out of mortal flesh. Is it possible? That's what's on my mind tonight. Not just through this temple in particular, which is what we're going to read a little bit more of this article, which has made my eyes pop out of my head when I saw it. I was like, whoa, we just did almost exactly this, right? But, all right, so if there's some sort of alchemy involved here, some sort of ritual alchemy, or, again, maybe in this particular spot, these exact sun temples with raw worship and all the rest of this stuff, is this what's going on? And again, if this is possible, we're going to start looking at some of the other stuff tonight, including the fabled Philosopher's Stone, which if you don't know, there's some interesting stories surrounding that. And not just Harry Potter, by the way. And looking into this tonight, I kept running into Harry Potter, and I was like, come on, give me something that's not Harry Potter, please. But let's see. Steph says, be wary of things that just come into your head. Subliminal messaging is everywhere. Yeah, it seems like it, right? Interesting. So here we go. Let's read just a little bit more. This is pretty wild. So it is believed that only 6 of these sun temples were built, and so far only 2 have been found. But now archaeologists digging beneath the remains of one of the known sun temples in Abu Ghorab, like I said, north of Egyptian archaeology locality Abu Sir, have found proof of a third sun temple buried under the other. So digging beneath the remains of the sun temple built by Nayuser-ini, a pharaoh who ruled for 24 to 35 years in the late 25th century BC during what is known as the 5th dynasty, revealed an older base. And so, as usual, right, it's not uncommon for ancients to rebuild, right? As wars come and go, as the time kind of beats things down, they rebuild. They tear things down and they rebuild, and sometimes in the same spot. And so we have just a rebuilt temple on top of another temple, which of course would suggest what? To me, it would suggest that the spot is sacred in some way, okay? And of course, you have to keep the temple there for who knows what reason, right? And so anyway, here we go. So let's see, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, read some of the more of the article here. Okay, so here's some pictures. And again, this is from the Daily Mail, pretty good stuff. It says, the fact that there is such a huge entrance would point to a new building. So why not another sun temple, one of the missing sun temples, they say. A collection of mud-filled beer jars was then discovered in the foundation, which researchers say is proof the site was a temple, as this is seen to have been a ritual offering at most sacred places. There you go. Beer jars. Now we're speaking my language. Now we're there. But okay, so that's the question tonight. What do you think? Do you think it is possible some way, maybe not through, removing your consciousness to attain immortality or in any, let's say, technological manner, but is there some way through ritual, through some sort of ritual at these particular sun temples of the Pharaoh, that you can, through some alchemical process via something like, the Philosopher's Stone, create an immortal being out of a mortal? And that's what's on my mind tonight. And of course, right, not just here, not just, like I said, we're not going to stay in ancient Egypt the whole time here tonight because it is a fun place, but we did just do a show on ancient Egypt not long ago. But this is a fantastic way to start a conversation about, yeah, you guessed it, what about alchemy? What about alchemical tradition? What about... exactly, the Philosopher's Stone. So if you think this is possible, if you think that there is something here, then let me know. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And so that's what's on my mind tonight. Again, it's easy to say, it's easy to just say, no, not possible. However, there are, what do you think they were doing? These rituals don't mean a thing, or do you think they do? I guess that's the question tonight. Do you believe in ritual alchemical magic of sorts? And if so, what does it mean? They've been using it for a very, very, very long time. And, of course, trying to create a pharaoh. Not just a mortal pharaoh, but an immortal. And so, let's look at some of this. We got some more here. So here's another article from themorningexpress.in, and this is exactly what we're talking about here. So let's see. They found the beer. Yep. Okay. Read that. Here we go. So Egyptian sun temples, right? This is from Wikipedia, were ancient Egyptian temples to the sun god Ra. The term has come to mostly designate the temples built by 6 or 7 pharaohs of the 5th dynasty during the Old Kingdom period. However, sun temples would make a reappearance 1,000 years later under Akhenaten in the New Kingdom with his building of the Karnak Temple in Thebes. Now, interestingly, Akhenaten, as Derek out there said, Freeman Fly believes Akhenaten is, or that Obama is actually Akhenaten as a, not just maybe a reborn, but something to that effect, right? So interesting that the Sun Temple was not just for built by 6 or 7 pharaohs of the 5th dynasty, but then also came back 1,000 years later under the rule and reign of Akhenaten himself, one of the most famous pharaohs there is. So exactly, what's up, Zen Wen in the chat says they certainly believed in it, didn't they? And I think that's exactly what's going on here. So here we go. So according to a tale from the Middle Kingdom period, the tale of the Jedi and the magicians, yep, D-J-E-D-I, pronounced Jedi, the first few kings of the 5th dynasty were triplets and the actual progeny of the sun god Ra. There appears to be some truth behind this myth. Not only were the 2nd and 3rd kings of the 5th dynasty brothers, but these rulers also started an unusually strong devotion to Ra that lasted through the 5th and 6th dynasties. And of course, back to the Sun Temple and the immortality rituals and alchemy and all the rest of this. So I don't know, like usual, I'm kind of out there, which is part of what this is about. It's kind of just talking about not just ancient cultures, but talking about some of the ritual magic that they performed, and considering that, well, if you think today we could do resurrections of such through maybe consciousness or through, again, cryogenics, like we said, or any of the rest of that. Do you think they discovered a way to maybe hack that system through magic, through alchemy, through ritual, way back to the time of Akhenaten and beyond? So there you go. That's what's on my mind tonight, and love to hear your thoughts on this as we go. And I think the weirdness is that, like I said, that synchronicity, like we just did, like this thought just crossed my mind 10 days ago, and then bam, never heard of the Sun Temple being used as a ritual to create an immortal god out of a pharaoh, right, out of a mortal pharaoh. And that's exactly the thing we were talking about, but through the mummification situation that the Egyptians were famous for. So I don't know, like I think that's the question here. If you're into this and you think that maybe I'm onto something, great. If not, that's fine too, because I do enjoy talking about this anyway, regardless. But so that's what's on my mind. And what we're going to get into tonight is not just this idea of being able to create a immortal god out of this particular Sun Temple, right? These sacred spots, of course, like we've talked about ley lines and that sort of thing in the past. But how about if you take the alchemical rituals of something like, which became famous later on in Western culture, the Philosopher's Stone, which, yes, that's right, the alchemical process to immortality itself. So is this related? Is it not? That's what's on my mind. You tell me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. So that's what's up. That's what's going on. And like I said, it is strange that this thought kind of crossed my mind not too long ago. And then here we have exactly this, the Sun Pharaoh ritual in the particular building. Pretty crazy stuff. So that's what's up. That's what Troubled Minds is all about. It's about drinking some maybe juice, kind of suspending your disbelief for just a moment and considering all the things as being possible and then discussing those as well as you will. And that's what's up. That's what the show's about. And that's what we're doing tonight. So one more time, let's see, where are we at time-wise? I think we're okay. So yeah, so that's what's going on. That's what's on my mind. And I hope that you enjoy this type of conversation because, well, if you do, you're in the right place. Like I said, so we're not going to spend too much more time in ancient Egypt. We're going to get to some other stuff like the Philosopher's Stone and some other things where it seems that in history itself, it's possible that this stuff has been a recurring theme. And that's what I'm talking about. And why not, right? If you're going to have recurring themes, you may as well begin in ancient Egypt with the Pharaoh, the Sun Temple of the Pharaoh, and Ra worship, because why the hell not, right? All right, so if you want to be part of it, you guys know the drill. We have a phone number, we have a Discord server, and you can be part of that either way. And you can reach us at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Talking about the Sun Temples of Ra, and that in ancient Egypt they used these exact spaces to create an immortal out of a mortal pharaoh. So, what do you think? Alchemy? Mythology? Somewhere in between? Love to hear your thoughts one more time. 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And tonight, we're discussing alchemical ritual of the pharaohs to make flesh and blood into an immortal. So, the Sun Temples were discovered recently again, 3 out of 6 now. And in these temples, of course, is where these rituals happened. So the question I have for you tonight is this. Do you think this is possible? Do you think that the rituals they actually did on their pharaohs back in the day, again back to the 5th and 6th old dynasties of Egypt, were well legitimate? Or do you think it's all just waving things around and calling it magic? I guess that's the thing. And I guess really, like usual, right, is what do you believe in? I think that's really the question here is, do you believe there is some sort of magic ritual happening out there that can be accomplished through alchemy or through some sort of metaphysical means? And again, why would they do this in these particular temples, in these particular spots? I think that's the question here. So if you want to be part of the show, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and you can reach us at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And you can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show that way as well. So, yeah, I mean, as usual, right, it comes down to, do you believe, how much of this do you believe is possible? Because, of course, considering that, that there is something here or something not, definitely the ancient Egyptians believed it. And then as we kind of go further up in history, which we'll get to in just a bit here, is the Philosopher's Stone, right? The fabled, magical, alchemical tradition of the Philosopher's Stone. And what that means is immortality is the elixir of eternal life, which we've heard this before, right? We've heard this fable. It kind of is runs far and wide and deep into history and all over and in between. And so that's the question. Do you believe that this is possible through not technology, but through some sort of esoteric alchemical means? And that's what's on my mind tonight. Just another usual Monday night at Troubled Minds, just like we were joking the other time there. But let's go to our good buddy Joe in Florida. What's up, Joe? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm just I'm living here in Florida. I'm looking for the house they filmed Cocoon in, or the Fountain of Youth, but so far all I found is some cans of Four Loko in the corner gas station. That's keeping me alive.
Fair enough. Hey, man, so is it safe to say that until you find it, you don't believe in the alchemical tradition?
You know, I believe in Red Bull. That's a little bit of a chemical tradition.
I guess it, as always, right? It just depends on what you believe in. What do you believe?
So,
I love it, man.
it was kind of funny. I kind of going all over with this, but you mentioned something. I don't want to get political, but I want to tell you what the name used to kind of just hit me in the head when you mentioned that one of our viewers or listeners mentioned that he thinks Obama was Akhenaten. And then I start to think of yin and yang and the balance, whether it's bad or good. I'm not going to take sides politically, but, okay, what mimetic magic that had to do with Egyptian gods that we discuss with our last president? I'm asking you.
I'm not sure. What did I miss? I know there's the whole time travel and the plus ultra. Well,
there's all of that, but remember the little thing, Pepe the Frog, that they say was actually Kek, and Kek was an Egyptian god, I believe.
Yes, Kek. Yeah. So the meme magic, as it were. Interesting. Okay, I get it. I see where you're headed now.
So I start to wonder, and I'm like, even if the Egyptians' belief, maybe we believe in these, maybe because we've lost some of that knowledge in modern times, maybe subconsciously we're manifesting these things in belief. Maybe the Egyptians and a lot of other ancient cultures that had less cell phones and distractions than we do had more focus. And they truly believed. And maybe these spirits come around like archetypes. We see this in Jewish mythology and a lot of mythology of archetypes. Hinduism, the wheel of samsara, things come back. Things come back. And maybe if you pray for them, they come back maybe in a more manifest form, if that makes any sense. I'm just throwing out whatever hits the wall right now. But that little keyword that you said, they believe that Obama was Akhenaten, makes me believe in some kind of a balance. And specifically with this country, we go left, we go right, and we try to get to the middle. Everybody fights and argues. We're in a culture war. Things are bad. But when I think about Patton, believe in reincarnation, when I think about Keck and mimetic magic, and I think about the books, and I think about Hitler, and all of these archetypes of evil and good, whatever good might be, whatever we think they are. I don't want to call anybody names, but I guess it's perspective. Some people in Egypt maybe believe in Sobek or the alligator gods, or some of those gods. And there were always battles, Greek gods, Zeus and Poseidon and all of them, but there was always a cult of worship for every one of those gods. Did they do it deliberately? Maybe. Maybe they had proof. I don't know. But you would think if they had proof that somebody came back, it would have been written about in a hieroglyphic. We just have, right now, I guess we just have customs and traditions written on a wall or a temple somewhere, and we see these things. But how would we ever really know if they ever came back?
That's a good question. I think scientifically you'd have to do some DNA analysis, wouldn't you? But you'd also have to find the original body if that was the case. So you're right. I don't think you could you? If it was like an actual immortal type situation like we're describing, I don't think you could prove it at all.
No, exactly. I mean, if it was DNA, that's one thing, but I honestly don't think. I think there's an archetype there. There's an energy there. And maybe like common folks like us, when we die, maybe our frequency or whatever it is, bad or good, okay, hopefully we're on the good side, and we just come back and we make our little bit of a wave or a little bit of a frequency. We come back, not because anybody's praying for us, but maybe because we just come back, But maybe back then, and even now, let's face it, kings, queens, presidents, everybody around the world, when these people die, they die with a lot of fanfare and hopefully with a lot of respect, and again, maybe because they die with that energy put into them, they're destined to come back on the wheel.
Right. So you're saying
I'm wondering if there's something. You got me wanting to look up Saddam Hussein, because Hussein believed that he was going to try to unite all of North Africa, I believe, at one point in time, and you kind of got me maybe wanting to Google Saddam Hussein and mysticism just to see if maybe he himself believed he came back. Some of these leaders, believe those things. Patton is the one, in Western history that always comes to mind is always Patton, saying that he was reincarnated. You look up Laconics of Cult, that book, which is the same author that wrote about the Adventures of Baron Trump. And the Laconics of Cult, apparently they were all supposed to have the same height in this book. And I'm curious what Obama's height is as compared to Trump's height. I'm kind of curious about a lot of world leaders. Because in that one book in particular, Laconics of Cult, they mentioned that, I don't have it in front of me, but they mentioned that these people were a certain height. And it kind of makes me curious if it was 6'2", somebody in the Middle East that was 6'2" at that time might have appeared kind of like a giant if everybody was running around at 5'6" or 5'7".
Right. Yeah.
So that's real. And that's a lot of Navy juice. I mean, we're going with a lot of Navy juice on that, just because I haven't researched it. I'm calling you early because I'm probably going to go to bed. But
Right. Yeah, it's okay.
It's interesting, and then the synchronicity, you know?
Yeah, so let me ask you, who was it? Do you remember who Patton said he was reincarnated from?
I want to say, I thought he had said Alexander the Great, or he knew, you know, from the movie and from when you read, he was in a lot of battles. I mean, somebody I'm sure out there can Google it real quick. But he had believed in that Patton reincarnation. You know, I just don't know. It just says he was a firm believer in reincarnation from what I could see. But I remember in the movie specifically, he had mentioned horses and that he thought Alexander the Great, you know, and cavalry and speed. So either he really was, and let's face it, he met his death kind of untimely after the war. And there's conspiracies on that if he would have, he was threatening it, you know, he was threatening the political atmosphere so that he was killed off. There's a good book on it. I want to say it was by a Fox News host. Regardless, it was a book about that. But that guy came about in power just at that time. So let's look at Obama. Obama came out of nowhere just at that time. When Bush had been there, whether it was bad or good, Obama came out of nowhere. Okay? And Trump also came out of nowhere. Nobody took him serious. When you think about that, okay, and maybe he runs in 24. Who knows? Okay, for better or for worse.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
Almost
there.
like there's it's another can of worms, and I don't want to. I'm just saying, but there's a lot of things that when you really look at that, there's a lot of things that make you go, huh. Now, whether there is a deep conspiracy that I think a lot of us maybe think that there is a dark government that selects these people on purpose. And we can keep fighting and having a culture war. But some of us might think that these people are already selected, and maybe they're selected from a lineage and a line that goes way back. Okay? And I'm sure, and you always hear conspiracies on that the bloodlines, that Trump is related to this one. You know, when we talked about Trump's uncle and Tesla, but then when you look at Obama, that they're related to the king or something, that they all have supposed bloodlines. I've never investigated them. But you really start to wonder when you start to scratch that surface.
Yeah, totally. So just a quick search here for Patton. People in chat are saying that he was a Roman legionnaire, or Matt says, Google says Patton believed he was a reincarnation of a Carthaginian general Hannibal. I see here that 1937, he got kicked in the leg, broke his leg in 3 places. He went into shock and said he had a dreamlike vision where he was being escorted into Valhalla as a as a Viking. So apparently he was all over the place with maybe different lifetimes. That's a little bit nuts. I hadn't heard that actually about him. That's pretty wild. But I want to point out real quick too, before you go, is you said Saddam Hussein. So I'm pretty sure, just from memory here, I think he actually claimed he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar. Have you heard that? I think that was a claim he made.
I think you're correct. I think you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, which seems pretty wild. So is the reincarnation part of it, or is this again, right? Are these spirits hopping bodies, or is this like maybe the same sort of situation that we're talking about with some of this sun? Go ahead.
Well, let's look at this. Was Nebuchadnezzar the one that was building the Tower of Babel?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so,
because I just start to wonder if he was trying to unite the Middle East, kind of like one world language, which, you know, because Hussein claimed that, you know, and we took him out, whether it was for whatever you want to believe, we took the guy out for better or for worse, right? But, you know, the other thing is when you look at the money, okay, every country has a leader, but really up till now, who supposedly leads the world? Everybody kind of looks to us, and we have the pyramid on our money with the all-seeing eye.
Sure do.
And that's straight out of occultism, and that's straight out of the Middle East. I mean, this is all just popping in my head while we're talking. It's not like I premeditated this. I turn you on, and I'm like, you know, you mentioned Obama again, and Akhenaten, and I'm like, well, you know, this all hit me. But the only people that don't play fair, not that it's fair, but who's the only country right now that's looking to supersede us? And that's the Chinese. And whether they believe in God or they're godless, that country right there seems to have the least belief in God as compared to, or any kind of God or religion, cult, mysticism, whatever you want to call it. They've got the least, and that's what stands against maybe the Western world or whatever you want to call it right now.
Yeah,
so
it's a good point about all the stuff, man. You were all over the place and nailing everything. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, great. So what else you got? What else you got for us, my man?
I think that's it. It's just funny talking about the Philosopher's Stone, because my kid comes out and he's like, he wants to get a Full Metal Alchemist. If you ever watch the Full Metal Alchemist cartoon, they always look, they're always looking for the Philosopher's Stone, And then I read something the other week about somebody finally turned, it was done, that they were able to make something into gold, but the energy that it took, just wasn't worth it. Somebody was finally able to change some materials into gold, but they couldn't do it. It just, they did it, but the outlay of energy and expense was just too much to get a little bit of gold.
We'll get into that story.
Energy can't be created. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We're going to get into that story, into that Philosopher's Stone, and the individual that supposedly cracked that code and was able to create gold from base metals. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's a great subject. I mean, I guess, whether you look at it as mysticism or a matrix, okay, whatever you want to call it, if the law of energy can't be created or destroyed, if that stands, then we go somewhere. And I'll leave you with this, and it might make more sense, because I was thinking about this the other week with people. We come here, we live here, we complain. I know I complain, okay? We live our lives. It's finite. We're here for the experience. I start to wonder if when we die and we go to wherever we go, if it's that perfect, wouldn't we eventually get bored and maybe want to come back here anyway? I forget what Star Trek it is. I think it was Generations, where Kirk gets caught in a ribbon, and he thinks it's heaven, and he always jumps with the horse, and then he looks at them and he goes, "I made that jump 100 times, and I never get nervous. Just kill me already, for real."
Right, exactly.
So I start to wonder if when we die and we're up there, like, I can only play so much ice hockey and probably go to so many gentlemen's clubs with fake money that I'd probably get bored of all of that and say, okay, I just need to go back to the Matrix for the real experience.
There you go.
I think we come back. So, right? Anyway,
I appreciate it, Joe.
I hope that gets the show started.
Heck yeah.
I hope everybody has a good night, and I hope everybody has a good week. So I'll talk to you guys maybe tomorrow.
All right. Thanks for the call. You're the best. Joe in Florida.
All right. By the way.
Oh, sorry. I hung up. Oh. By the way, sorry, Joe. Completely my fault. I thought that was the pause where you say, all right, good night. And then you went, by the way, sorry about that. Completely my fault. Anyway, if you want to add the thought, go ahead and give us a call back. So there you go. Fantastic stuff, ranging far and wide with that. And I agree, right? That there's a lot there that he was describing, right? With maybe the ritual stuff, maybe the pyramid on the dollar, right? We're talking about Nebuchadnezzar being actually reincarnated as Saddam Hussein, and again, Patton as possibly Hannibal, some of these other things. Maybe that's exactly what's going on here. Yeah, fantastic call, Joe. That's how you kick us off right there. And so I don't know. So that's the question tonight. We're going to we'll get into the Philosopher's Stone and the alchemical tradition and where this stuff came from. And of course, there is a story, by the way, where this was cracked, where the actual the Philosopher's Stone and the alchemy able to turn base metals into gold and silver was actually cracked. They say that this was done, and a particular individual became extremely wealthy as a result. So that's pretty wild right there. So we'll get into some of that stuff as we go tonight. But fantastic, Joe. Thanks for starting us off here. But this, just to circle back of where we began tonight, one of the 6 missing Pharaohs' Sun Temples is found by archaeologists in the the Egyptian desert, and they're calling it the most important discovery of the last 50 years. And so, notably, it was actually buried underneath the newer actual Pharaoh's Sun Temple that they found not maybe, again, 50 years ago, who knows, 60 years ago. So that tells you a lot about talking about rituals and being able to do some sort of this Philosopher's Stone type alchemical ritual to keep people alive forever. Immortality, as it were. And so, well, that's what we're doing tonight. That's what we're discussing. That's what we're thinking about. And I don't know. Yeah, great call, Joe. Thank you very much. And I think that's the weirdness too. There's Derek there. And so actually, yeah. So last time we were doing a show similar. Like I said, we're going to get off of ancient Egypt now. Just circle back to kind of fill in where we came from here tonight. But it was Derek there. What's up, buddy? That said that Freeman Fly actually thinks Obama is Akhenaten, right? That whole thing. And Freeman actually he does a podcast called The Free Zone. If you guys haven't heard Freeman, he's amazing. So do check out Freeman Fly. He's called The Free Zone, and it's a very just kind of, he'll get a guest on and the guest will just talk. It's amazing. It's one of those things, they just talk and it ranges far and wide. So anyway, that's what we're considering tonight. So one of the 6 missing Pharaoh's Sun Temples is found by archaeologists, they say, and one of the most important discoveries of the last 50 years in Egypt. And so what does this mean? And so, of course, go to Wikipedia and some of these other sources, and they're saying that the Sun Temple was used in ritual to make a mortal pharaoh into the immortal god. All right. And so that's where we're at tonight. But not just, we talked about this, like I said, about 10 days ago, oddly enough. And it was a stretch of an imagination from my part and your part to go there. But now we actually have this actual Sun Temple being discovered. And in this spot, this is where they say these rituals took place to turn your flesh and blood pharaoh into the immortal that he became. So, what do you think? What do you think? Are we all over the place? Are we off the rails yet? Probably, but that's fine because that's what we do. This is Troubled Minds after all. But it is strange, isn't it, synchronistically, that this thought, sort of not exactly, but in periphery, crossed my mind kind of randomly from just the treasurer of Ramses the Great. They found his burial spot, and so I jumped to this, and now we have this not even 10 days later where we have the Sun Temple where they did have actual ritual to create immortality. So anyway, that's where we're at tonight, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as we go. But fantastic stuff from Joe. There's a lot of ways you can kind of take this, isn't there? And that's what this is all about: getting together, drinking some maybe juice, suspending your disbelief for an evening, and considering all the things. So if you want to be part of the show tonight, love to have you. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Talking about the alchemical tradition, the Philosopher's Stone, and the Sun Temple of the Pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Is there a connection here? And of course, well, what do you believe? That's what this is all about. And if you want to be part of the show, one more time, 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Be right back. Alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
So all right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. The show's live. If you want to be part of the show tonight, the number to call, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM as we talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what they are? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. And tonight, now check this out, not too long ago, approximately 10 days ago, I saw that there was a discovery of Ramses the Great, his treasurer, actually. They found the treasurer of Ramses the Great, his tomb, all right? And I thought, well, let's take this, just go way off the rails on this. It's just a simple discovery, but it got me thinking about ancient Egypt. And so oddly enough, the thought in my head in the discussion was ranging far and wide. We were talking about the actual funeral rites of, the Egyptian Book of the Dead and things like this. And, well, wouldn't you know it? Less than 10 days later, we have this. This article comes out, and it begins like this. One of the 6 missing Pharaohs' Sun Temples is found by archaeologists in the Egyptian desert in the most important discovery of the last 50 years. And so, well, you may say, so what, Michael Strange? Well, now this is the weird part, all right? Because in the previous show, about 10 days ago approximately, we talked about how, maybe this mummification ritual was to save the DNA so that at some point down the line, they were able to actually wake up these pharaohs, okay, through maybe DNA technology, maybe through cryogenics, like we said, maybe if it happens today to, let's say, a billionaire and they want to freeze themselves and then be brought back in, I don't know, the year 2500 or whenever we can bring people back like that. But if that's the case, right, we're talking about immortality and pharaohs, and we're talking about the elite, right? But not just the elite that, of today. We're talking about the elite of all time. And we're talking about bloodlines. We're talking about possibly reincarnation here. We're talking about all kinds of stuff, which, of course, means, well, you're welcome to Troubled Minds. Like I always say, if we're not off the rails, we're doing something wrong here. So so that's what's on my mind tonight. So I saw this, and I started reading about it, and it's just like, you never know if it's going to trigger, like, inspire a show, and a conversation, a larger conversation. So I start reading about this, the actual, Pharaoh's Sun Temple. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. What is this? Well, it turns out that the Pharaoh's Sun Temple is where they held the ritual to turn the immortal Pharaoh into the immortal god. So then I was like, okay, wait a minute here. This is kind of what we were talking about, except this is more in the ritual sphere of things, meaning alchemy, meaning possibly ley lines connecting in this particular spot where these sun temples are found. And maybe, again, drinking a lot of maybe juice here, is maybe this is, well, how these pharaohs live forever. And there you go. Night Stalker's got it right. Rails? Where we're going, we don't need rails. Absolutely. So again, so a little bit of synchronicity here with not just that idea that I had 10-ish days ago. Again, kind of on a whim, just from like, oh, cool, a nice, archaeological discovery in Egypt, right? And kind of just sent me down the path of the dead, right? The Book of the Dead. And so I was like, wow, what the heck is this? Notice I said Path of the Dead, Lord of the Rings, right? But then, so then on top of that, if we're talking about the alchemical tradition tradition and how all this fits into this again, the Sun Temple, and how maybe this ritual does allow a mortal pharaoh to become the immortal pharaoh, right? What does that mean? What exactly does that mean? And of course, there are other stories, right? We'll get into in just a sec here the Philosopher's Stone and that particular alchemical tradition, which of course is not just turning base metals into lead, like lead into gold, that sort of thing. There are other implications with the Philosopher's Stone, including, you guessed it, immortality. So that's what's going on tonight. So if you want to be part of the show, love to have your thoughts on this. Do you think this stuff is real? Like I said, I get it. We drink the maybe juice and suspend our disbelief and talk about wild stuff. That's okay, right? That's totally okay. That's what we do here. But so that's the question. Do you believe that this ritual stuff, like the ritual magic of old, is powerful enough to possibly be able to create a immortal out of a mortal? That's the question. And I don't want to use the term God so much because, there's all the religions and you're going to just make everybody mad. But let's just say turn a mortal into an immortal, right? A demigod of sorts. How about that? So that's the question tonight. What do you think? If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And I don't know, with all the rest of that, where do we go from here other than, the Philosopher's Stone? But before we do that, actually, let's go to our good buddy Rohan. Let's go to the famous Liam Martin. Welcome to the show, my friend. Are you there? Test 1 2. He's on a bit of a delay, so Discord.
Yeah.
Welcome. What's up? The famous Liam Martin. How are you, my friend?
Famous. Hey, I'm not rich though. It'll not be long.
not be long now. It's not long now. You got the famous locked in, so now the rich is going to follow. Absolutely. By the way, everybody follow Rohan's podcast here. It's called Exiled Minds. You can find it in the links down below. What are your thoughts on this, man? This weird alchemical tradition, the Philosopher's Stone, now these sun temples of Ra that supposedly were able to hold these rituals where they made the mortal pharaoh immortal. Man, what in the world, right?
Yeah, I know. Funny enough, I did a show on alchemy, and it's such a big topic. I was planning to do like a bit of a kind of a follow-up show with the magic side of it, and but yeah, this stuff kind of comes up, doesn't it? But yeah, on the Sun Temple thing, I just straight away, right, when you're talking about waking up immortals, I think of two movies. I think of Blade Trinity, where they wake up Dracula. He's been asleep for hundreds of years from ancient Sumer. Do you know what I'm saying? Then that gets me thinking about one of the Iraq. You mentioned, Iraq. You got maybe that was. I think that was about a Stargate. Do you know what I'm saying? And then I'm thinking, I didn't realize he was rebuilding all the temples. So then I think, well, yeah, that might be part of how it works. Do you know what I'm saying? You got to build everything, sort of thing. So it gets me wondering about that. And the other movie that I think this references to just fits in perfect. And I'll just explain the premise if you've not seen it, Mike. It's X-Men Apocalypse. Are you familiar with that movie? Because that's like about this.
Is it? I'm trying to think. I've seen some of those X-Men movies, but I don't know the names.
Dude, this is the latest one. It's right. Well, the premise basically is there's a... Right, this guy, the first ever mutant was a god. It was worshipped as a god from the dawn of civilization, and he was like, he had lots of mutant powers because his power, it was able to go into a new body, so it could keep staying alive, and as we're going to mutants, and they get their power too. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, the funny thing is, at the start of the film it's about this ancient Egyptian, these people that they're still worshipping this old Egyptian religion. They're worshipping this temple that's underground, and some sunlight gets into the cave one time, and it hits the top of the pyramid, and it's got gold on the top, or it looks like gold, and the sunlight seems to charge up the gold, and then it shows you that there's a track of gold all down it, almost like circuits, and the sun's energizing it, so it's energizing this pyramid underground, and there's a guy trapped in there. Been asleep for hundreds of years, been asleep for a couple of thousand years, and it wakes him up because this pyramid is part of its resurrection technology, And in the film, he's basically doing the same thing that they talk about the crystal skulls. When he's dying, they lay him down on one table. They'll have whoever his body's going to be transferred. His consciousness is going to be transferred into another body. Like they used to talk about the crystal skulls, they'd use that as a medium to transfer the shaman's knowledge into the new young shaman. So they're doing that in the film. Do you know what I'm saying? Doing this resurrection stuff. And I just thought it's exactly the same. You know, it's this Sun Temple stuff. And it has to get hit by the sun to charge it up. Do you know what I'm saying? I wonder what you thought about that, Mike.
Yeah, interesting. So we got a couple things at play here. So possibly this Sun Temple thing. Let's go with the X-Men. You said, what's it called? Apocalypse? What's it called?
Apocalypse. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if that's the case here, let's say. So I've been describing the Sun Temple and the or the Immortality ritual as sort of a literal thing. Meaning that, you know, they take the individual that's going to be the mortal king and turn him into the immortal pharaoh. All right. Well, what if instead, like you're describing here, it's not that at all, but you're taking maybe the older vessel that holds that whatever, whoever it is, the god within, and then transferring that to the next person, the next younger body in line. And maybe that's how this survives. Interesting. I like it, man. So meaning that it's not maybe necessarily literal. It's more, once again, wouldn't you know it, spiritual.
Yeah. And guess what? And the freaky thing of this is, although you don't sort of like, you have to kind of notice it in the movie and all the stuff that's going on. But the freaky thing about it is, it seems that whoever it transfers into, they start to look like him. So not only it's not just his consciousness going into another person, their body's face starts to change to look like him. So he's not just going into him, he's completely taking over it and changing it into him. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not just a transfer, it's because transmuting it, funnily enough, actually.
Which again, another alchemical term, isn't it? The alchemy never stops. Okay, so interesting. Yeah. So maybe that's the ritual here. And so if that's the case, then, and that exists some way back in the alchemical tradition, like I keep saying here, that you could have, let's say, you know, as we described in the last show, you know, 10 days ago or so, where we did something similar, that instead of having actual resurrections themselves, you're just body hopping, right? It's like skipping the whole reincarnation cycle, just reincarnating right here through ritual, through prayer, through whatever's going on in these particular areas, like the Sun Temple.
Yeah,
amazing.
I think we're talking some lost most of us high physics, because I think about this as well. Is a possibility of a mechanism, of a way to think about the way this might work, right? So a lot of us have looked into stuff to end up here. So a lot of people listening have probably heard of Kirlian photography, where we get a picture of auras, right? But interestingly, I discovered that people who have lost limbs, who have that phantom limb syndrome, feel like it's still there. When they have Kirlian photography, the energetic pattern for the limb is still present in the photography, right? Sort of indicating energetically it's all still there. Holographically, it's like we're just missing the physical layer, right? So then I think to Reiki practitioners, because what they're claiming to be doing is they're attuned in some way, so they can convince your body's magnetism or whatever to get in alignment, so then you can kind of heal yourself. So your body gets in alignment, and then, you know, whatever blockages you've got go away. Obviously, they can't do them all, because if you've got an emotional blockage, you know, you've got to deal with that yourself, sort of thing. So I was thinking, well, it's almost like it's all energy stuff, isn't it? Energy transfer. You know, and so if you've got a limb missing, but you can still feel it, and you can energetically manipulate things, you know. And I'm just thinking, it's like high technology, high physics stuff, I think, as well. Do you know what I'm saying? And in my studies into alchemy and magic, which we're doing for another alchemy and magic show next, I came across some stuff where there's individuals through history that have been recorded doing like incredible miracle things, Okay, and some of these people, like mutants, the most powerful mutants are considered class 5 mutants. Well, in the terms of magic and alchemy, there's been people in history that have been considered Merlin level magicians. They could like levitate and stuff, right? And they've extrapolated out the population numbers at different times when they was alive, and they're saying that in today's population numbers, there should be roughly around about 7,000 people, Michael, that are at Merlin level magic. So where are they? They can't not know. Are they working for rich people? Have the government got them? Are they all being sedated in mental hospitals? Do you know what I'm saying? Or are they in a super group? Have they found each other, Mike? Do you know what I mean? And then there's a secret superhero group out there that we don't know about. There might be a real one.
A real one. The real X-Men is running around out there doing all kinds of wacky stuff. Yeah, man. I love the idea. And if that's the case, right? And I think, again, even like just a base belief in even like, you know, maybe magic in like a tiny sense, you know, like let's take D&D, not even like using like, you know, like doing any sort of like major ritual, but they call these spells before spells cantrips in Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so it's like little tricks. It's like being able to, you know, snap your fingers and create like a light, you know, things like this, like set something on fire with like a snap, you know, tiny little things. Even if you believe in like those little steps of magic itself, doesn't that mean that larger magic does exist as well?
Surely. Things get scaled, don't they? You know, and surely. And I think about, you know, you got like those Maharishi type meditation experiments and that, you know, all the mass conscious stuff, the remote viewing stuff, and the random number generator things, and it's like, oh, there's something there, isn't there? You know?
Yeah, especially if it's all energy. Like if you can manipulate energy somehow, then it seems like that would be the next step. And that, of course, that's what they're working on now as far as science goes and the rest of that stuff. How do we actually accomplish that? Like we're talking about, again, scientifically now, moving consciousness into what? If you could, again, like this is exactly the ritual you're talking about, right? Exactly. If you can move your consciousness into a new vessel, whether it's, let's say, Android, right? Some sort of whatever is created, like the R2-D2 ashtray, like I always like to say. Or what if they can take your DNA and straight up clone you and just move you over? What's up? Come on in.
Yeah, and it's like, say you found some DNA, like they did in a Star Trek episode. They've got this legend of Kalis, and somebody finds his battleaxe, right? So, and then it comes out that somebody's found Kalis, they've found his DNA, and like reanimated him. Okay, but it's not the same guy. So they're clinging on to like, well, it's not the same guy, is it? Do you know what I mean? And even Kalis with the DNA and that is like, yeah, I didn't live that life, did I? And I'm a Klingon, I hadn't had any battles. So it all becomes like a nothing thing. Because you're like, oh my God, it's like resurrecting Jesus. And you're like, oh my God, yeah, Jesus, oh my God. But it's not really you, is it? You weren't really there, were you? Do you know what I'm saying? So everyone's like all disillusioned with it, sort of thing. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, if that's and I think the crazy part too is like when Joe said, right, it was more about when he called in, you know, way back in the day, they weren't like enthralled with their cell phones and those scrying mirrors. They were using real scrying mirrors, you know, like they were like focused on this energy stuff, this energy work, whatever it's called, the magic. And so it's I can't even imagine what you could accomplish, like sort of just removing all of the modern barriers and just having focus with yourself and nature and the sky above you. You know what I mean? It seems like it wouldn't surprise me, let's say, if they were way ahead of us in that regard.
Well, this is true. I mean, one of these people I read about was Saint Joseph, who did all these amazing stuff. They were saying that it seems to me, I was reading between the lines, he did exactly that. He used to have to, as a necessity, daydream a lot because he had I can't remember what the condition was, but he was in a lot of pain for a lot of his life, and his only respite was to sort of daydream and get out of it. So he used to do that a lot, and he used to go into trances a lot, and they used to sort of mock him because his head had flopped back and his mouth's open and that. But I think that seems to be part of it, that it's all in mind. And then you got to remember, although it's startling, all this time, these alchemists, a lot of science has come from alchemy, and all this time they've been saying it's all about mind and thoughts, and the meditators say it, and Alan Watts will say it, and they keep telling you it's all mind, and there's no, you know, science has had to start to admit now that everything's made of consciousness. Everything. And it's hard to wrap your head around. But if everything's all mind, everything's all consciousness, then yeah, your thoughts can make everything. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's just so hard to get to grips with. But that means that we're all Neo in the Matrix, essentially. You know?
Wild stuff. Meaning that all of this. So do you buy it? Like, I like your theory there that maybe there's 7,000 Merlin types out there that are literally masters of magic. Where are they, Rohan? Where are they, buddy?
That's well. I think of it in modern terms. I think where the B is like I say, I'll bet you if that were the case, I bet you 50% of them, or at least I bet 2,000 of them, are in mental health institutes. Any money, I bet you they've been sedated. Either because stuff's happening and everyone thinks it's crazy and nobody believes it, so they think they're crazy themselves and everyone thinks they're nuts. Or some government person's gone, oh, this guy's crazy, he did this thing, and then they've got him on like a record where you can't ever let him out, sort of thing. I bet there'll be stuff like that. Some people will be locked down, some people will be hiding, I reckon. Some people will work for who knows who. Maybe some people, maybe they've been traded off world, Mike.
Now we're talking. Now we're in business. I love it, man. Why not, right? Why not? I think that's the beautiful part of this is why the hell not, right? We know the elites are doing rituals. The question is, do they work or is it a bunch of BS? And that's where we sit. We're trying to figure all this stuff out. And what in the world is going on? We're running out of time, my friend. Always a pleasure. You know you are the man. Everybody, please follow Rohan's podcast. His real name is Liam Martin, and you can find him on the Exiled Minds podcast. Scroll down, links in the description below. Amazing stuff, my friend. You were blowing my brain up and everybody else's as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that. That's great.
Thanks for the call. Always a pleasure,
Cheers,
Rohan.
man.
You too, man. All right. You too, my man. So, all right. So, food for thought, right? It turns into a whole bunch of other things regarding this whole energy stuff. And again, right? So maybe literal immortality isn't the thing at all. Maybe this turns into, these rituals are maybe just bouncing consciousness from body to body, etc., so on. And so, I'm willing to accept that as maybe I was off. Maybe I was wrong. Well, it wouldn't be the first time, would it? Nor does it matter, really, because last I checked, we have the right to be wrong. And that's really one of the main premises of this show. And maybe that's why there's a war on religion. You tell me. What are your thoughts? Love to hear what you think about this Temple of the Sun, the immortality of a mortal pharaoh to an immortal. What's going on with this? We're going to get to the Philosopher's Stone coming up next. I'd love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Of course, we're taking your phone calls. What we're talking about tonight is, they found the Temple of the Pharaohs, the Sun Temple of the Pharaohs, where it is said there was a ritual performed in the days of old, where they took a mortal pharaoh and made him immortal. Well, do you think this is possible? What about alchemy? What about all of this? We're talking about it, drinking the maybe juice and considering all the things. If you want to be part of the show tonight, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Love to have you on the show. And we're going to get to the Philosopher's Stone in just a moment here. Let's make sure everything's good. All right, phone lines are clear. Discord is clear. Okay, so there is time for you, and if you would like to give your take on this, I'd love to hear from you tonight. Again, Joe and Rohan slaying it with so much amazing stuff. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for your phone call here, let's go to this. Now, the Philosopher's Stone, right? When we're talking about alchemy and we're talking about this immortality and this whole situation, alchemy again goes back to again probably back to times we can't even fathom, right? It's chemistry. It's basically chemistry, okay? And alchemy was the precursor to modern day chemistry, and of course it was, how do you figure things out? You put this together and that together, and you mortar and pestle, and you stir them up and you drink it, right? Or you give it to the dog, or right, something like you try to create potions, right? You try to create things, new elements, new things, right? Just experimentation. And so, of course, the Philosopher's Stone is the pinnacle of that alchemy, meaning that, of course, in the alchemical tradition, what they tried to do is turn base metals into silver or gold, right? Like lead into gold, right? Would have made anybody, even today, like a billionaire, right? Bam, snap, buy all the lead you can, just turn it into gold. Easy peasy, easy game, right? And then you ride off into the sunset trying to find your immortality ritual, right? Like we see our billionaires today trying to do, don't we? Speaking of Robert Bigelow, right, as one. So okay, and of course, remember the lab that Bezos just actually put in California, his Immortality lab, right? So there's some crazy stuff going on with this, right? And it's these huge synchronistic kind of circular situations. But back to this real quick. So, okay, the Philosopher's Stone, much more properly, the Philosopher's Stone or Stone of the Philosophers, okay, there you go, is a mythic alchemical substance capable of turning base metals into, such as mercury, into gold or silver. And is also called, now this is the important part, it is called the elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving, you guessed it, immortality. Immortality. And there you go. So the Philosopher's Stone was the central symbol of the mystical terminology of alchemy, symbolizing perfection at its finest, enlightenment, and heavenly bliss. Efforts to discover the Philosopher's Stone were known as the magnum opus, or the great work. The great work. So there we go. So that's the thing tonight. That's what's on my mind. And of course, right? So if we're talking about alchemy, we're talking about the Philosopher's Stone, and this, this kind of is pervasive into, 16th century Europe. We're talking here. So if this is a thing that goes back to the time of the pharaohs and alchemy and this whole Sun Temple and right immortality, well, is this all linked? I think that's the craziest part, that it seems that it doesn't even take you to really dip into, like you pull out the dusty old tome and blow off the dust and try and, dig to page 96 to find. No, like we're talking about the Philosopher's Stone and alchemy, and basically not only is it some magical formula that will turn base metals into gold or silver, it also is the fountain of youth. It is the secret to immortality. So notably, like I said, does this all stick together? Does this work? I think that's if you're talking about these rituals from the times of the pharaohs and all the rest of this, and the Sun Temple where they supposedly were able to take a mortal pharaoh and make that person immortal as the immortal pharaoh god. Well, is it something to do with alchemy? And of course, the Philosopher's Stone. So that's the question I have, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And we're going to get to this story, if you've never heard it, regarding the Philosopher's Stone, which I thought was pretty fascinating. So we'll get to that in just a sec. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this tonight. Do you think magic is real? That's basically the basic, the basis of the whole conversation tonight. Do you think magic is real? And if so, right, if as Rohan described, if it is real, even on like a cantrip type Dungeons and Dragons level where you can do simple things, create simple magic, does that mean it scales? Does that mean there is magic that allows immortality? And like Rohan was saying, well, is it Merlin level magicians out there that are maybe in straitjackets, that are maybe hiding from the rest of the world because they know they're going to be exploited by the government, right? As of course we think of like the Stargate project. What were they trying to do? They were trying to get remote viewers, right? Joe McMoneagle famously, and Ingo Swann, probably the two famous remote viewers ever. And so they were trying to get these people that had these otherworldly powers and be able to tap into those powers. So do you think, just as Rohan described, if there were Merlins out there, master level magicians, actual magic, not like pull the rabbit out of the hat type stuff, actual magic, don't you think they would be hiding? Don't you think they would be? Because they know what the government might try to do to them, just like in the X-Men. That's a good way to put it, right? Mutant powers, and look what the government did, and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty nutty stuff here. So, all right. So the Philosopher's Stone, right? Now, alchemy and the rest of this, it's not just about lead into gold. Like I said, the formula, the pinnacle of that formula, can not only do that, it can also bestow immortality. All right. So we'll get to that in just a sec, actually, because we've got a Night Stalker here. Let's do that. Let's go to our good buddy Derek, the Night Stalker. I didn't see you there. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you tonight?
Going on, brother? Great show tonight.
Thank you. Just talking about magic, man. You know, oh
man,
tinfoil hat magic.
Yeah, it's the good stuff. It's that good baby juice.
Exactly.
We talked about Immortality, or whatever, like the 10 show did 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I'm really driving with the mutant idea, and like the apocalypse reference was right in the money. It's really like an exact like representation. If anyone hasn't seen it, I posted the GIF in the Discord chat of like him choosing this vessel based on its like superpowers, which could be a version of like Bezos picking this like crazy DNA and storing it in this lab to build him his perfect vessel that he can then hop his mind into, and then like keep his resources by saying it's like a relative of his or whatever, and keep the train going. But to bring it over to like a little more of like a portal-y angle with this in the Temple of the Sun in particular, like a lot of these ancient structures and ancient sites and stuff and ancient ritual sites are aligned to like the sun and like the moon and stuff, and like their star calendars and everything, because obviously of like the agricultural and like civil like society benefits that would have. But I think there's like an actual importance of the alignment of the light coming down. Like they want to know where this important sunlight is coming, like especially on like solstice and equinox days when it might have like a more magical component to it. So that I think in some cases to literally travel to different places, but in a lot of cases to like go just in whatever form or fashion to the other side, to go to the underworld, to go wherever, to learn something, to come back with like to get information, to come back to this realm as like a higher person, like a higher being or somebody with knowledge, or and just an easier case or simpler case, just like with art or some kind of knowledge to give to everyone. And like 3 or 4 summers ago, I went to a lecture for Freddie Silva, the researcher who like talks all about like ancient structures and ancient sites. And there was this 2-hour talk where he just went from site to site and just like rattled off how every single one of these things, like Stonehenge and like just you name it, they're all had the same exact alignments. They're all had like my brain's not working right, so I'm not gonna be able to remember all the different examples. But it's uncanny how like they're all essentially performing the same function. And he believes that, he called it the art of the resurrection, where they go to the other side, they get into this temple, and like this magical solstice or equinox sunlight or whatever this important solar day is, which is the importance of why they're trying to map it so much, like hits you, I guess, and then in this case like takes you out of body, and like you interact with beings they call the Shining Ones, who like teach you stuff or whatever. And the goal is to eventually like become like an ascended master. This is like the not like creepy, dark occultist angle of it, like the evil elites trying to do. This is like more of like the good side of it, like the ascended master type angle to it. But the goal being essentially that you shed the physical coil completely and you become one of these ascended masters, and then you go on to train the next wave of people coming in, and you become essentially one of these Shining Ones and that kind of stuff. So perhaps this immortality ritual is less to keep the pharaoh alive physically, but to over time become one of these shining ones, ascended masters, and using this temple site to go to the other side, which is Egypt they're all about that. Like it's all just training manuals to deal with the journey from the other side and possibly back, So I'm rambling. So what do you think about that?
No, you're good. Well, I think all of this even makes some sense, like even without a ton of maybe juice here, because it is, we're talking about basically magic. We always say this, but like technology is magic. And so if we can somehow harness whatever that lightning in a bottle of consciousness and be able to just sling it around into this, that, or the other thing, that it's a wrap. Like literally, it is the Philosopher's Stone. It is that key to immortality. And if somehow through maybe meditative trances or these rituals or these particular spots you're describing with like the Temple of the Sun and Ra worship and all the rest of this, if that's possible, it doesn't surprise me. Again, we talked about last time we did something similar here with the mummification rituals, with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So maybe it's like the double. It's like the double setup. So if they're taking like the pharaoh and becoming immortal, it means you're changing the energy from one person into the next. Let's say a younger body, but then they still preserve. Let's say Akhenaten or something. They still preserve his body as a backup later on in case, right? So who knows? I mean, there's a whole lot of things here, right? I mean, so
that's a cool idea,
right? So what happens if like they move the person they move the essence into dies, right, unexpectedly, and they can't move the essence out? Well, then they have the backup, don't they? Like I said, it seems to kind of match here.
Or if like there's like a macro or micro where they're trying to, maybe the goal is to become one of these like ascended master, shining one type things where you, over time, given this practice or whatever, or spending enough time in this meditative state in these weird zones, like the stories of Crowley and all kinds of people going down in the chambers of the pyramids and everything and having these crazy out-of-body experiences. So you design the actual physical structure of the building you're in to have all these acoustic functions and everything that put you in this, physically in this, like, no woo, just actual, just the way, I don't know, it's just, you're physically in this state combined with potentially some kind of mystical aspect that the light is bringing, which is like the solar alignments. Maybe the goal is over time with this practice to become one of these shining ones, but they can't get it done in one lifetime. So they have to keep bouncing from body to body until they become this perfect being. Like that's kind of what Apocalypse in X-Men, his goal was. Like he was, actually, I don't really know. I think he had some kind of end goal, some kind of perfect utopia where he ascended like all mutant kind to this like perfect mutant type thing, this perfect form or whatever. And it's kind of the dark angle to it. But perhaps they need to, or like it could be almost like a bastardized version of it where you just like somebody got their hands on the instruction manual and they decided to tweak it instead of going for more of like a what seemed like a more like noble goal, I guess, to like form this invisible college in like this in the astral or whatever. Could be they're like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I want to use it for its like physical benefits and this like sense gratification benefits, and I just want to keep this. I'm living the life as a pharaoh. I'm living the life as this elite person. I just want to keep doing this, and like whatever about the afterlife, I don't care about any of that stuff. Just let me keep bouncing my consciousness from one body to the next. That seems like, and there's a lot of trails that would lead me to believe that they could be doing that, even still today, you know. And there's all kinds of rituals that are similar to this. I don't have like the details in front of me right now, so I'm gonna kill it. But basically, at like the inauguration for like every president, they go to what's the river in Washington D.C. that everything's built on? It begins with a P. Potomac. They do like a pharaoh ritual. I don't know if I forget the name, but the idea behind it is they're trying to get the power of like an Egyptian pharaoh. It's like an Osiris ritual where they stand at this like temple along the river and they do this. I'll try to find it after I get off the phone, but it's like an actual. It happens. It's borderline one of those weird American history things where they even admit they're doing it. Like I don't even think it's a conspiracy, but it's supposed to symbolize them getting this power of the pharaoh, this type of like becoming a god, ascending the apotheosis of the president. You know, like becoming a god. It's crazy stuff. Like, I don't know. Maybe juice, it really gets going, but well, I don't know. It's wild. It's wild stuff.
It is pretty wild, and if that's maybe that's what's going on. Maybe all this, right? Yeah. They said that maybe all the presidents are related. Maybe in more than just right, like the bloodlines. Maybe there's like an essence bouncing around.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a Dune scenario where in Dune they're trying to like they know. They like have all these prophecies and stuff. They believe that there's going to be some kind of Messiah or whatever. So they're trying to manufacture it. So the importance of bloodlines for them is to like, they're trying to create something, create this like God human, you know? So maybe in the real world, it's like maybe the importance of bloodlines and everything, the reason why all the presidents are related and that kind of stuff is because like they're keeping in the family, trying to mix them up, like they're trying to, I don't know, they're their own weird games going on with that, trying to like elicit some kind of something at the end. There's some kind of end goal in mind, some kind of weird godhood of the upper echelon class, you know. But like maybe not in a good way for us, you know. Maybe more in like an apocalypse way where they just want to turn everyone into like, I'm not sure. Enjoy the fruits of the planet. And get all like the sense gratification stuff, living eternal life, just keep coming back and back and back or whatever, as the rest of us are toiling and just performing the menial tasks, you know, literally building the structures and pyramids as it was in ancient Egypt, you know, like I don't know. I'm rambling, so I'll get off.
You're good bringing it all back. Amazing stuff as always.
Yeah.
This is Derek in Massachusetts, guys, the Night Stalker. Follow him on YouTube. Scroll down, link in the description. He doesn't have a ton of content yet, but let's inspire him. Follow him. Derek, you're the best. Thank you so much for your takes. Always.
Thank you, bro. Great show, dude.
Thanks, man. Have a fantastic night. All right, so let's squeeze in this story real quick. We're still taking your phone calls, as you know. We got a third hour of Troubled Minds coming up eventually here, so no gigantic hurry. But I want to get to this story before, just to make sure that we kind of round this out for the radio audience here. Is regarding the Philosopher's Stone. All right, now there's a famous French alchemist by the name of Nicolas Flamel. Okay, Flamel. I don't know if I'm saying that appropriately. Probably not, but that's fine. That's par for the course anymore because I just can't pronounce anybody's name, but that's okay. So here we go. This is how this story goes regarding the Philosopher's Stone and this individual. All right. So Nicolas Flamel, the story says that one day, this is from discoverwalks.com, by the way. So the story says that one day he dreamed about an angel who brought him a book. This book, with a very recognizable cover, contained a hidden secret. The angel told him that one day he will be the one to decipher it. All right. Nicolas Flamel was troubled by this dream, but as years passed, started to forget about it. Until one day, an old traveler presented himself to Flamel and proposed to sell him a very old book, 21 pages divided in 7 chapters. As he looked at the cover, Flamel realized that it was the book he had been dreaming of. It contained a recipe for the transmutation of lead into gold and to make the elixir of life. He eagerly bought it, right? The elixir of the gods, as Lily says there. The problem was that this book was hardly understandable, attributed to a Jew called Abraham. It was full of symbols related to the Kabbalah, a mystical doctrine of Judaism unknown to Catholics. And of course, we're talking about, what was the date here? Just to make sure. I can't remember the exact date. It's in here, 16th century France, all right? And so, let's see. So he ends up meeting with this guy. Let's see. Let's see. All right, so he tried hard to understand it, but with the help of his wife, Pernell, had to recognize his inability to decipher it. He turned to the alchemists of Paris, but was disappointed. Flamel needed to understand the Kabbalah, right? So here we go. Let's see. So he knew he was not likely to find a Jewish scholar willing to help him in Paris, and he should go to Spain, where a much bigger community lived. So he decided to join the pilgrims, starting their journey to the tomb of St. James in Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain. It was a long, dangerous, exhausting trip, approximately 1,500 kilometers or 930 miles, and of course, back in the 16th century, it was pretty brutal, that type of travel. But check it out. So he made it. he made it to Spain and met Conches, a very knowledgeable converso, a Jew who had converted to Christianism, they called it. Conches was fascinated by the story told by Flamel, but unfortunately he didn't bring the book with him, so he only had some excerpts from the book. So so Conches, the guy he met in Spain, decided to accompany Flamel back to Paris to see the book itself. All right, so they do this. On the way back, he started to initiate Flamel on the secrets of the Kabbalah. But the trip was too exhausting for the old converso, and unfortunately he died in Orleans before he could ever see the book. But nevertheless, Flamel knew enough from these initiations with Conches to start deciphering most of the recipe of this Philosopher's Stone, this elixir of immortality, right? And so, wouldn't you know it? So he did. He turned into an alchemist himself, led many experiments, and always helped by his wife named Purnell. Until 1382, 21 years after he found the book. Sorry, this is actually the 12th century, not the 15th. He eventually found the right formula to produce the stone and the elixir. Now, this is the craziest part about this, right? So he supposedly found the secret to eternal life, and not only that, how to turn base metals into gold and silver. What would you expect of somebody that happened upon those secrets? Check it out. Yeah, he became extraordinarily rich. As a generous man, he used part of his fortune to help the poor and patronize churches and hospitals in his city. The story says he organized fake funerals of himself and his wife, and then went to the Indies. And there you go. There's the story of the actual Philosopher's Stone, and it describes somebody that actually cracked the code, created wealth and immortality, faked their death, and disappeared into the world. And just as Rohan said, well, maybe he's one of those people. As Derek was describing, maybe he's one of those ascended masters as such at this point. Who knows? But that's what's going on here. That's what we're talking about. As always, drinking lots of maybe juice and considering all the crazy things. And sometimes it seems like they're not so crazy after all. It just depends on who you ask, as always, right? It always depends on who you ask. So as we finish here and consider all the things, you know the drill. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange, and if you're listening to us on The Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void, and then after that, Ryan Gable, The Secret Teachings. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds. We're going to keep talking about this and take your phone calls and just talk about all the weirdness. What about the Philosopher's Stone? What about the Sun Temple? What about Ra worship? What about immortality? You tell me. As we finish, we'll see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific, more Troubled Minds. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. There we go. One more Troubled Minds Fringe in the books. What we're going to do, third hour. If you guys are interested, we're going to keep talking about this stuff. It's wild, I think, when you consider all of the things, right? You don't even need, like I said, you don't even need to be like dusting off grimoires and figuring out anything. It's right there. Like you look at some major things in history, the Philosopher's Stone, this immortality thing, the ritual back in Egypt, the Pharaohs. I mean, it seems to track. It seems to track. What's up, Craigs? I see you there. So what we're going to do is we are going to take a quick 2-minute break, and more Troubled Minds coming up. So love to hear your thoughts on this. And what's up, Matt's got it right. And he is still alive today, right? The Flamel, the famous alchemist of, the 12th century France? I think that's right. Anyway, so point is, more Troubled Minds coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're talking about alchemy. We're talking about the Philosopher's Stone. We're talking about rituals. And of course, did the Pharaohs unlock a secret to maintain power forever. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be stuck with them, would it? I'm sure the secret got out at some point. So there you go. More Troubled Minds, 2-minute break coming up. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're into the third hour here, so the radio gloves are off, so if you want to drop some F-bombs or whatever else, we're good to go. So I appreciate you guys being professional for us in the first couple hours, and after that, well, we can just drop our pants, or you know what I'm saying? Not literally, just kind of, minds in the gutter sort of situation, but yeah, so we can definitely do that. So looking to hear from you guys if you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. We're talking about the Philosopher's Stone. We're talking about the actual Temple of the Sun from ancient Egypt, and of course Ra worship. So let's do that. We got hey Kelly, what's up, buddy? How you doing tonight? Are you there?
What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well, my man. Welcome to the show. What do you think?
Well, this is also goes back to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, if we were going to go back with the alchemy and that whole, because back then he called it chem, K-H-E-M, which is the, like chemistry or whatever. That's where chemistry, they say chemistry came from, was like parts of that teaching of alchemy. But I don't know, man. For me, it goes back to, like I said, the Emerald Tablets, where he talks about immortality himself, where he gained the knowledge of cheating death, is what he called it. But the way he did it, and it was interesting that you brought up the Sun Temple over in Egypt. So, with that, the Thoth thing, yeah, it wasn't like, I don't think the way he explains it when he cheated death, because the point was when the whole thing with alchemy was that when he cheated death, he gained all knowledge, he was trying to gain all knowledge of the universe, which he could transverse the galaxies, the universe, and then he talks about these hounds of hell is what they call them, or the hounds of, they were like protecting some far end of the universe, where he says if you ever hear the hounds, that you try to go back to your body in circles, not in angles, because those things move in angles. Like it's an interesting read if you ever have a chance to do so. But yeah, with cheating death, it's either where he was saying that it's kind of like how the Egyptian was talking about, where you would transfer, it's like your energy. So just like what Rohan was saying, when you're, everything's energy, right? So it's just like energy turns into a mass, right? So it's transferring what people would say, or, with religious people would say the soul, or, whatever. But it's just pure energy. Just like how we said you get your hand cut off, but yet you put it in those machines and they could still see like the outer pattern of the body, right?
And you still feel it.
Yeah. So and that's the thing too. Like people talk about now they're saying that it's even with teeth, like you get a tooth pulled, sometimes you feel like you have a toothache. But what's interesting is that he was transferred 3 different times. So it was, he was Negazita, which was the Enki son, and then he became Thoth, and then Hermes thrice Megistus, and that's where a lot of you hear where like the Hermetic teachings, but it's actually Thoth. So if they're using that type of technology, it's some kind of a technology or magic, what people would call magic. It's something highly advanced that you'll be able to do something like that. That's controlling you, who you are as a being, of an energy creature, that we're, That's why they say, we're living in these meat suits. So we're just having this experience here. So, but what's interesting to me is when you talk about temples, so I kind of go into this too a little bit, but sun temples, and they have temples towards the moon, but most of the ones that have meaning are like the sun temples. There's 12 sun temples in India, and there's the Sun Temple of Egypt, which they just now found, the Temple of the Sun of Inca, the Temple of the Sun in Mexico, the Temple of the Sun in Cusco, the one in, I believe this is, the wording sounds like it'd be Indian too, but it's a Mackinac Sun Temple, and the Karnak Sun Temple was the oldest one. But then you find what's interesting too is it, like when these people talk about that they were, escaped death, or was it sometimes like the ancients could be, it was technology that they were, maybe, because the reason why I say that is because you also have like sun gates, the sun gates of the gate of the sun in Tiwanaku, Bolivia, stuff like that, right? So, and then you have these things where it looks like a wall or like a door, these false doors. They have a lot of those in India as well. But what it looks like to me, sometimes maybe they're walking through a door, like is it a jump gate or something that they're going to their planet, which would be, like the biblical story of, the temple of, or the Tower of Babel, where, they're trying to reach the heavens. But it was more like jump gates. They were like where you can, like when in the Anunnaki stories, they were talking about from heaven to earth, right? So that's the gates where they were, and earth was here, obviously key, but it was, heaven would be like what they would call Nibiru, their planet, all right? Well, if they were jump gating, maybe that's what it was that they were doing, not only alchemy, but maybe that's, there was something weird to that effect, where it could be, they were just jump gating, like a jump gate to a planet, to their planet. But in their stories, the story with the Anunnaki too as well, they also talked about, they was called the food of life and the water of life. If you was to consume those, you would be able to live for, I don't know, centuries, I guess. Because what's interesting is that if you look at their lifespans, were thousands of years, But when they came to this planet here, it was, they sped up because of the gravity here, but they still lived, hundreds of years. And they, if they wanted to do that same thing here, they would have to, do like something like alchemy, where they would, live for a very long time, like what they saying, cheating death. But yeah, it's an interesting story with all this stuff too. But
yeah, it all seems to track, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the one thing too is what they call some of that stuff that they're transferring energy over. That's another word they call walk-ins, where you can transfer your essence into another body. It doesn't have to be like like a reincarnation to birth. It could just be like transferring. Kind of like would say, you're an old man and you want to be into a younger man body. You wouldn't per se that you would have to have a baby, but be reborn as a baby, like reincarnation. But you just transfer your essence back over to another body. And maybe that's what they were doing within the Egypt, these so-called pharaohs. Like I said, these pharaohs are things that they were, claiming that is, they're demigods or whatever. That would, for me, that's kind of like where that would be the Anunnaki that came here. They had, also children or something, but their lifespans, like I said, shortened while they were here. So maybe that's what they wanted to try to do is, continue on with their life in a different body here on this planet.
Right, exactly. And so I knew, so the reason I don't do full-on Toth is because I know a lot of you guys know a lot more about it than I do, you specifically. And so I don't go full Toth mode, but I knew that talking about alchemy tonight would probably invoke that name, because Toth was the original alchemist, right? I mean, he was like the one who supposedly was able to come up with that Philosopher's Stone actual concept, right? The whole immortality of not just maybe being immortal in one body, but bouncing between vessels as well, right? Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all this ancient knowledge, back in the day where they had these libraries, or like, what you're talking about, the Philosopher's Stone, and then alchemy or chem was what they called it back in the day. But yeah, that's all some type of technology. You have to have. I mean, for me, it's a knowledge of, if you're changing chemical, because it can be. For me, if I think about it myself, I look at it as, yeah, that can happen. You can change stuff. Why not? Because it's all chemicals that create, like, for instance, gold, right? But you're just trying to change. You're trying to change the chemical reactions or the type of reaction that you're getting into, let's say, per se, into gold. I don't see where. I mean, yes, it's a difficult task to try to think about or even try to accomplish. But like I said, some of these, and when you guys were bringing up some of these with the government and stuff, these people know, they have their hands on these things, because they were back then, they at least they had the chance to get a hold of this ancient technology or this ancient knowledge of how to do this stuff, and they're going to keep it to themselves. That's why they do these weird fucking their little stuff that they do, like they did, like when they said they went to the moon, they did rituals up there, they do rituals all the time, and people don't think of that, that sometimes they, a lot of people think that we're the ones that are crazy, but yet they don't looking at the craziness that the government people are doing, the people that are, I don't call them elite, because the only thing I call them would be, that they're actually, people that work for us, but people don't really understand that. But if they have lots of money, yes, you will have, if you got the riches to get your hands a hold of that stuff, of course you're going to try, to, stick around longer. That's why, I don't know if it's interesting for me, is that you also see these people like, they call them doppelgangers, right? Where they, the ancient ones, where you have ancient paintings where it looks like, actors now. So who knows? Maybe that they have, like I said, that these people that are in these limelights that boom out of nowhere, they're all connected. Their family lines, just like the presidents you're talking about, they all are connected. There was actually a little girl who did all that, connected all the families back to, I believe it was a king or something back in England. But yeah, these are all, it's because it's strange. Like, how do you would think that how these people that are just rich, right, not even into the government or politics, become president, like Trump or like Bernie Sanders? Like, this guy was a schmuck, he's I'm serious. If you listen to some of these guys, if you pay attention to some of their past history that they have on, because they're in politics their whole life, then it's kind of strange how you still see. I don't know, man. For me, I also go to. I have another theory on the whole doppelganger thing, but yeah, it's crazy that you see that the similarities are just too uncanny to think that, who knows, maybe these people that had the money, maybe they want to be a superstar or a singer or the new shit that's happening nowadays, whatever, to be in the limelight.
Right.
But
just reborn kind of in the modern light. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to me that, the doppelganger thing is where, you find the people that, like I said, they just look like each other. But
hey,
again, I have another.
Real quick, Kelly,
yeah.
we got Robert's been waiting on the phone for about 10 minutes. So you going to hang? If you're going to hang, you're welcome to stay.
Yeah, I'll sit.
Okay, so don't go anywhere. We'll get back to you in just a sec. Kelly, thank you, Robert, for being patient with us. We had a phone line drop, and Matt also, I saw you there. Sorry about that. Right when Kelly was talking, the phone line just took a dump and knocked both you guys off. So thanks for calling back, Robert. Let's go to Robert in Pennsylvania. What's up, my friend? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and Kelly. What's on your mind tonight, my man?
A lot of maybe juice.
Fair enough.
So I'm gonna fill you up with Robert's homebrewed maybe juice here.
Go for it.
Okay. there's two parts to this. One, I'm going to talk about the search for immortality, and they're making it more complicated than it needs to be. All right, and they've been doing that for centuries. We have what's called telomeres in our bodies. A telomere is the end of a chromosome, and telomeres are made of repetitive sequences of non-coding DNA that protect the chromosome from damage. Each time a cell divides, the telomeres become shorter. Eventually, the telomeres become so short that the cell can no longer divide. That's what causes aging. All right? The telomeres have tails, and the tails get shorter and shorter and shorter with each division over a lifetime. That's what causes aging. All right? If they could figure out how to revive those telomeres, stop that kind of erosion, stop them from getting smaller, you could possibly live forever. All right? Because that's also probably, with the aging situation, if you stop aging, you're also likely to stop the kind of illnesses and stuff that eventually kill you. Also, we have DNA that is considered useless. We had, in the strands, there's supposed to be this useless DNA. They can't figure out what it's for. It's possible that there's an on and on switch. That one of those useless pieces of DNA is an on and off switch, where it shuts off at the moment of birth, so that you age. But if that's the case, then if they could figure out which strand of DNA that is, they can switch it back. And that would also result in some kind of immortality. Now, the other part of this is, I personally think that, I said this before, that people like Bezos and Musk may have been the ancient pharaohs. All right, because I think that those types of old ancient rulers reincarnate over many, many centuries. And the reason that the people at the top, the very powerful, the ones that control our world, are there is because they're the most experienced incarnators in that particular area of governance and ruling and wealth and all that sort of stuff. Let's say I kicked the bucket, and I could not come back as the CEO of some huge corporation, because I don't have the experience in my incarnated lives to be able to do that. Only a select few are able to do that, and they keep doing it over and over and over again with each successive life. That's maybe juice. The problem with getting immortality, all right, is that if somehow we were able to cure death, have immortality, have perpetual youth, for the soul that lives inside us, that would be hell. Because the soul always aches to go home. And we all feel this. You feel it. Everybody here, in their lifetime, feels a kind of ache inside of home, of getting home. Well, that's the soul speaking. And, the soul can go down and switch off that death gene. It could do that, but it doesn't want to. Now, you could, excuse me, you can meditate, all right? And you can instruct the soul, which is basically instructing yourself, to shut that thing off, all right? That's almost an impossible command, all right? But I'm just saying, if you could do that, you could be immortal. That's what I call it about. So I'll lay it on you. There's 3 different things I talked about. Is there anything that you want to comment on about that?
Yeah, so I think they're even related though. I mean, like this is like we seem to be working in, like we talk about these long cycles, right? These long count calendars and how, as above so below, but then also nothing new under the sun. All of it seems to track in that we go back to exactly what you're describing, right? Maybe these presidents or maybe these pharaohs have found ways around this, and it makes sense to me, like the magic thing and the being able to transfer the consciousness, again, the telomeres, being able to extend the life of a particular body and stay in that body as long as possible. I mean, clearly, I think even we know at some point, even if you're able to extend the life of one vessel per se, one body, it's going to perish at some point. It just has to. It's like, it's organics, right? It's like, it's I think it's, what the law, what is it? The law of entropy, third law of thermodynamics, I think is what I'm looking for. It happens. There's no way around it, right? But I think if you combine those things and kind of lock them together, we're looking at exactly that. They said Moses lived 10 generations of man or something, like that type of stuff. And so what happens then? Like those elites, like Kelly said, I don't call them elites because, well, they're just a bunch of punks most times. But, like if we're talking about these pharaohs kind of going through these cycles of birth and rebirth, it could, you're bending all the rules basically, right? And so even though on a chemistry level, on like a DNA level, I think this stuff is possible, man. Like we are at the precipice of learning how to do these things, probably in the next couple 100 years. Maybe cross your fingers in this lifetime. But I also get what you're saying regarding we get the urge to go home, to return wherever we came from, right? That whole scenario. So I think you're spot on, man. I think a lot of the stuff you said here is exactly what the essence of what we're talking about tonight. There's a whole lot of things at play here, and it seems like, technologically speaking, it like I said previously, it doesn't surprise me that we're rediscovering things that may have been lost, thousands of years ago. But yeah, fantastic stuff, man.
Well, maybe these powerful, wealthy rulers of the world, who have constantly ruled the world over centuries, are really the evil angels. All right, the real enemies of humanity. All right, that culminates in some kind of battle of good versus evil that finally ends the whole business of what's going on. That strikes me that could be the case.
Yeah, like or the archons or something like this, the fallen ones, whatever, like kind of manipulating.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, let's take that Adam and Eve actually, just for the sake of argument, actually existed. Okay? Remember that he created them as immortals. The God of the Bible created them as immortals. But when they went to when Eve, whatever happened there that they did that ticked them off, he took away their immortality. And the question I have is, what did he do biologically to them that ended their immortality? In my opinion, as I've had this for a long time, is that he switched the gene off. He switched some DNA off there. There's a trigger there that he shut off, or he turned on.
Like the ancient CRISPR.
That ended. Okay.
Yeah.
That ended the immortality. That condemned them and all of the rest of their descendants to die. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And we almost have that technology now. And so that's the craziest part, right? As these long cycles seem to come and go, right? We forget. We, like they say, is it Graham Hancock that says, we're a species with amnesia, right? And I think so. I think a lot of this is exactly what we're talking about, and we're rediscovering ourselves. And hopefully we don't have that whatever cataclysmic thing happen where we forget again. Because, of course, then who's at advantage? You know who they are.
We know we're coming there. All right, but the ones that are going to make this happen are the rich and powerful. It'll be to benefit them because they're the ones that just can't imagine leaving behind all the power they have, all the wealth they have, and and having to suffer the indignation of dying just like any ordinary person, any herd in the cattle. All right, they're going to be the ones, and that's where I think that there's some truth to this final battle between good and evil. All right, that's going to happen. It's going to be the regular people, the human race, the regular non-rich, non-ruling class that is going to do something about it. It's going to be that biblical war against evil, and these incarnated spirits will be finally gone forever, in my opinion.
Amen, amen, brother.
They've gone too far this time.
Yeah, exactly. And how's the song go? We're not gonna take it. Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's building and building and building and building.
Amen. Amen to that, brother.
Yeah, I'm done. So
appreciate it,
I'll
Robert.
talk to you later.
Great stuff as always. Thank you so much, Robert. Appreciate the call. That's Robert in Pennsylvania. He's got a book. Check out his book. It's amazing stuff. I'm reading it. He sent me a copy. It's called Stories from a Fractured Mind. Link is down below in the description. We got Matt on the phone, but let's go to Kelly first. Anything, Kelly, that on what Robert said there? Lots of good stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, through science, I mean, they, like I said, these people that have been around, and they get into what we would call magic, or now it's science, right? So science, yes, they're actually tapping into that, trying to find that on and off switch, which what Robert was talking about, that prolonged, because he's correct that when, but it, besides the Bible, okay, I'm going to go with the Sumerian writings, right? And they also talk about the same. There's an exact same story about that. But the reason why they shut it all off, because when they created in the story, when they created us, right? We did have their DNA, and their DNA had something in their DNA too, which helped create us, which gave us the immortality, the long life, like they did. For example, like the whole Adam and Eve, which is actually Tiamat, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but anyway, in those stories, yeah, it's exactly just like that. We were it all happened after the Tower of Babel. All the nations, we all talked one language, and at the one time where it was in the story is after the Tower of Babel was destroyed. That they changed all of everybody had different languages, and then they shut our life cycle off to 120 years, the longest. But there's other people that lasted that, like there's claim there was a Native American man that can't remember his name now, but he was 137 years old. But it's weird sometimes, like who knows? Some of these people, it doesn't turn off for them. Maybe that they have. And science does keep going at it, is what they're doing. There's all things, if you see on the side where, because I follow a lot of science as well, but there's in science they are talking about if you're alive at a certain time, I think it's like 2024, 2030, then you might be able to live. They're already talking about living hundreds of years after that. I mean, that would be one of my things I want. That's one thing I want to do, is to live to be about 500 years. That's I would
Is that all, Kelly? Is that all?
Yeah, it's done. Think about it. Like, as a human being, our life cycle is, a blink, not even a fucking blink of an eye compared to the universal lifetimes out there. 80 years, 60 years? Come on, man. That's nothing. What do we... People say that that's a lifetime, but it's not. It's a blink. For me, I look it into the bigger proportion of everything. Where, yeah, it's a blink. It's not where we should be. If you had a life cycle of 500 years, you could, the thing about we could actually
get something done.
Get
something done.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Kelly, we're going to go to Matt. You going to stay?
Okay.
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Let's go to Matt. Thank you for waiting so long, Matt. Appreciate that very much. Matt in California. Welcome to Troubled Minds. You're on with Mike and Kelly. What's up, my man? How are you?
Good. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, doing A-okay. Just doing our thing, man. Talking about weird stuff off the rails.
Yeah, good topics and a lot of good callers tonight. Everyone calling in, good stuff.
Definitely.
So I'm just gonna jump into the Philosopher's Stone.
Sure.
The alchemy. Okay, so what I believe is in these ancient texts, like the old texts, like in the Bible or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they're written in like the way they're written is like biblical. It's hard to understand it. It's like riddles and rhymes and codes. And I think the reason why is because they don't want, there's secrets in these books, and they don't want everyone to know because then they won't be secrets. So I think a lot of the things, when they're talking about stuff in these books, I think a lot of them are metaphors. And I think that's important to, because it's like figuratively, like, and then there's metaphors. I think a lot of this stuff is in metaphors. And so when we talk about the Philosopher's Stone, okay, so figuratively, it's a stone that turns lead into gold or base metals into gold. And when you think about that, if that was real, like, yeah, I want that. I want that, right? I get out of debt, buy you guys cars, like do like that one guy, donate to hospitals and things like that, help people.
Right, like he did.
If I had infinite money,
like Flamel did.
Infinite money.
Yeah.
And so that's like figuratively. Right? So we're all searching for this stone, right? We're looking for this physical stone. But I don't think it's like that. I think it's a metaphor. I think the metaphor is for, here's the metaphor. The lead that they're talking about is your body. And if you're a person, no one here that I know, but people out there that, they just kind of live their lives, go to work, do what the TV says, buy what they tell them to buy. They kind of just live their life. People, pay bills and work and die. That's lead. That's not, living your life. And so I think the gold that we're talking about is the knowledge to just like, because alchemy is all about transformation. And I think like using knowledge to transform our lives for the better. Like it's basically about transforming your soul into a better person. And so, doing things like just working out or eating healthy, that's, transforming you into a better person. That's the lead into gold.
Okay.
And the metaphor for the stone is the stone is your heart. So it's in your heart. You have to, it's all about becoming a better person or just being a good person. And all these books, like what it's all about is it's all about becoming a good person and doing the right thing. You follow me?
Yeah, I got you. Actually, there's a thing I pulled up that talked about that specifically too, about how there's 3 different levels of the Philosopher's Stone, and one's the literal, one's allegorical, like you're talking about here, and then there's another. There's like a spiritual kind of ascension to this. And so I'm with you. I get exactly what you're saying here. We were going to get into that regardless, and you beat me to the punch, which is fantastic. Which is why you guys are all amazing, always beating me to the punch. But I get it.
It's all about.
Go ahead.
Like I said, it's all about just being, better, transforming yourself into better. And once you start to transform yourself, into the better, you start to see the spiritual and all of it, and understand, we're souls in a meat suit. Once you understand all that, it's easier to, transform. And then that's what they're saying is that like higher up, the spirit, once you understand that, then you can like heal your body or like heal yourself. That was the spirit thing you're talking about. Yeah, I think it's all. I think metaphors are the key to all this. And there's another story that it's kind of off the subject, if I can go off a little bit, but it's kind of the same thing. Is the story of the Holy Grail. So the Holy Grail is another artifact, right? Mystical artifact. The Holy Grail is supposedly, they say it's the cup that Jesus had, and then they say that if you can obtain it, if you can grasp it, if you drink from it, you get like a knowledge of God or like a healing power from God. And so, of course, like, you know, thinking figuratively, an actual physical cup, you know, we all like, I want that. Like, I want that. We ship it back and forth to each other and drink our maybe juice out of it, heal each other.
Absolutely.
Like a physical cup. But if we're talking about metaphorically, and so it's a story. It's, one of my favorite stories of the Knights of the Round Table. So there's the two Knights of the Round Table, Galahad and Percival.
Percival, yep.
They're hearing the stories of the Holy Grail, so they're searching for it. And you know, one winter, it's, you know, kind of a slow day. They're like, let's go quest for this Holy Grail. So they're going out and they're questing for the Holy Grail, looking for this cup, and they're looking like under rocks and trees and caves, this cup, physically looking for it. And you know, they feel that in order to obtain it, you have to be like holy, like a holy person, meaning like perfect in the eyes of God.
Pure.
And so they're like, yeah, they're kind of like fighting over each other, fighting over it. And then they eventually they give up. They're like, it doesn't exist, you know, this can't be real. So they give up. And they go back to Castle Camelot, kind of with their tail between their legs, because they don't think it exists. And at the castle, they see Merlin. And they say, Merlin will know. So they go to Merlin. Hey, Merlin, they think it's like a wild goose chase. Does this cup, the Holy Grail, does it actually exist? Or is it just a wild goose chase? And Merlin says, yes. And so the knights are like, you heard the man, you heard the wizard, saddle up the horses, let's go, we're going back out. And they go back out looking for this cup. And then later on in the story, King Arthur, adult King Arthur, he's like curious too. He goes, he's with Merlin, and he asks, is this Holy Grail, is it real? And Merlin says yes. But then he, you know, King Arthur, he just kind of ponders. He doesn't run off looking for it like the knights did. And Merlin's able to finish his story. Say, yes, it does exist, but not in the way you think it does.
Ah.
And again, it's a metaphor for the cup is you, your body, and the things you need to fill it up with is the knowledge to just be, like I said, transforming yourself to become a better person. And so the whole thing, this whole point of all this is they have us chasing these objects outside, a material, like physical possession, looking for it. But I think that they're tricking us. It's like a fool's quest. We need to look inside of ourselves, inwards, to find this stuff.
I love it. Absolutely. 100% spot on, right? As usual, you don't find the Holy Grail without introspection. And of course, whatever it means for the Holy Grail or the Philosopher's Stone, they're the same thing. Allegorically speaking, it's exactly the same thing. However, right, it just depends on, again, dogma. It depends on what you really believe. You got to ask yourself. And of course, the thing I like to talk about when I discuss belief, we don't do this a lot, is belief in yourself. You know, like all the things that we do on this show, right? Like I'm no expert in any damn thing ever, right? It doesn't matter. I believe that I can do this. I believe that we can attract good people. I believe, right? It's belief in something larger than yourself through inner introspection and outward, right? It's a thing. It's a thing, man. It's that whole manifestation and the whole bit. I'm with you. Allegory, metaphor. It's fantastic. Great stuff, Matt. Thank you so much for being patient with us tonight. I know you waited an awful long time to get on the show.
It's all good. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Just the thoughts.
Perfect. Yeah.
But
just
before
a thought. Just an amazing thought.
I posted a video in the Discord of me, if you guys are interested in this stuff, walking around in a museum, Egyptian museum, and they had an alchemy display there. So if you guys want to check that out.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. And before you go, now in the vein of alchemy, I tweeted this November 10th, retweeted this from QuoteBot. I'm going to read this. Speaking in alchemical terms, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That's from Carl Jung. Yeah, there you go. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Nice. I think with alchemy, that's alchemy is it's a thing, but it's all about transformation. That's transformation and transmutation. That's what it's all about. And a lot of these magicians, they knew about it. So it's interesting. I think it goes all the way back, like all the way back.
Amen, brother.
Time.
Amen. You're spot on. Always great stuff, Matt. 100%. What else?
All
you
right,
got?
thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. That's Matt in California, and I think I'm glad he called and laid that out, because it's literally where we were going to head with this anyway. Like I said, he kind of cut me off at the pass, which is perfect, because like he's thinking what I'm thinking, right? This is what I'm saying, right? Like I'm me, you're you, but together we're us, and it's a super valuable thing. Kelly, thank you for being patient with us as well. Take on that, the allegory and the metaphor. What do you think?
I kind of like that. It was pretty good, because everybody's, I don't know if everybody's heard the term where it says "my cup runneth over." I mean, that's more like a metaphor of that you're overly enjoyed, or something that's your fulfillment. That story that he kind of reminds me of, the one he was talking about of the two knights. It kind of reminds me of an older story, which is the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's a Sumerian. They call it a poem, but it's a story of a king. He was like, they call themselves back then, was like I said, the demigods, where they were like sons of these Sumerian or the Anunnaki. But his story is that he was trying to find the plant of life. Right, him and he teamed up with the what I call a Bigfoot, because they were, the way it's described, how they made this creature and what he looked like and stuff. He was really hairy, tall. But anyway, the story is that they were he was trying to find the plant of life so he could live forever. He found it, but then when he fell asleep, him and his companion fell asleep, a snake slithered up and took the plant and stole the plant from him, which, he didn't complete his task of what he wanted to do. But, yeah, that's an interesting story, too. And it's the same thing. They were trying to find, eternal life. But, yeah, like I say, there's some that it could be allegorical, some of the stuff. But, I mean, I don't know about too much, leaning that much, because there's just too much. I don't know, a lot of the stuff, like the Toth stuff, his book and everything, that's very powerful words and meanings in there, and those things too. Like he says, you're not supposed to read it once but 1,000 times, because the more you read into it, the reader will get more knowledge out of it. And these things are hidden. They're not supposed to be out in the open for everybody, because, not everybody has a good heart, that's going to be out there to have, imagine somebody that's, really wicked in the heart, where, they're up to no good and they have these powers, kind of like what the so-called, super rich and people like that, or, what people would call the elite or whatever. But yeah, these people are, they got their hands on something. They're just not sharing it.
Right, exactly. So it's that whole shtick again, right? They're keeping something from us, and so you got to find it. You got to seek to find it. So again, back to the allegory. It's not just seek and ye shall find. It's also it's hidden, and so you have to dig. You have to dig deep. You have to spend time. You have to do those things, right? I think that's all relevant to this. 100%, definitely good stuff. Okay, so tons of good stuff here. We got Tam Bam on the line. Like I said, Kelly, you're always welcome to stay. I'm not kicking you off. You tell me if you got time. Let's bring Tam in.
Something real quick too is the whole thing where they say the knowledge is hidden. That could be another allegory. They say it's hidden because the truth is in is inside you. That's why it's hidden. I mean, if you're out there running around like those knights looking for something, which is actually it's in you, and that's where like even the Hindus and stuff like that, Buddhists, they talk about look inward. You're supposed to look inward, and like the Gospel of Thomas, same thing. It's inside of you. We already have it. We don't know how to pull it out.
Right. So it exists. It's one of those things that's like unlocking yourself. It's like that the cheat code is there. You just got to be able to and I think the crazy part is like biologically, like Robert was talking about the telomeres, right? There's one way of unlocking it, right? And we're talking about technology, CRISPR, maybe, who knows? But then also, Matt, allegorically, right? Even though if we have this secret inside of us, like you're describing, you're not going to go looking for some object out in the bushes and the trees. You already have it. It's just tapping that potential. I love it, man. So many ways to look at this. Good stuff. And again, like you said, but then taking it exactly like the pharaohs did, as far as we can determine, right? Being thousands of years removed, it seemed like they took it seriously. Like that Thoth alchemy stuff in the Temple of the Sun was real, right? And I think that's the amazing stuff here is it's all over the place, right?
Yeah, because like I said, there is temples of the sun that are everywhere. Why would everybody on every religion, or not religion, but every culture have something like that? A temple of the sun. What is, or the temple of the moon, or something like that. It's, yeah, I could see that they were objects in the sky or something to, attain or not attain, but to, I wouldn't say so much worship, but. And then the thing too, like Akhenaten, the Pharaoh, he believed in Aten, one God, which is the sun, which is pretty interesting. Trying to unlock that thing too. Figuring out what they're really doing in those things.
Yeah, there's your whole riddle wrapped inside of an enigma and a mystery, right? A couple shout outs, let's go, and then we'll go to Tam Bam here. Let's see, who do we miss? We got Algo, what's up? Jennifer's here, thanks for showing up. Free TV. We got Crags1, Crags2, what's up? How's everybody? Thanks for hanging out. Allison, I didn't get to say hi to Allison, what's up? And how's everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. There you go, check this out. This is a testament to you guys, by the way, over on Rockfin real quick. Charlie says, another banger of a show. Love the callers. Ha. I'm me, you're you. Together, we're us. Thank you so much, guys. Let's go to Tam. Uh-oh. We're going to do the Tam Bam dance. We call this the Tam Bam dance. We may have to move into the other channel for her. Yep. She keeps bouncing out. Tam, are you there? Nope. All right. Kelly, I'm going to move this into the other channel real quick, and I'll move this back when Tam's done. Tam, welcome to the show. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and Kelly. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Thank you very much. What's on your mind tonight? What do you think about this Philosopher's Stone and the Temple of the Sun? And, is this all allegory or is it something else?
Well, the great thing about being a listener is that you kind of get to listen, obviously, but listen to everybody who calls in. And people are amazing where their mind goes on tangents. And it's taking a step back and listening to everyone talk just it makes me think that it's kind of like a recipe. It feels like, and it sounds like a recipe. So everyone's got their little bit of their take and their belief and whatever. But when you put it together, it's a recipe, right? And I'm saying, firstly, you've got to have the belief. So the belief of being, of whatever you believe in. So let's take now immortality. So you have the belief that immortality is really, really real. And you have, within belief, you have, within you, there's secrets locked inside yourself, whether it be the spiritual or, opening up your pinnacle, your pineal gland, and all those things. Then you have to have also blinding faith that this can happen and it will happen. And then you gain the knowledge from it all, the knowledge of passed down from different lives and if you're part of that special bloodline, that you've got to have that knowledge that is passed down within the new vessel of your body. And then you've got to take a look at the physical anatomy and physiology of your body. So saying, earlier on, I forgot who called in, but he was talking about telomeres and how, pardon?
Robert.
Okay, so Robert said, yes, Robert. He called in about, telomeres, and telomeres are extremely important for a prolonging life. We haven't cracked that, how to advance that or to stop the telomeres from depleting or shortening. But there's one thing. But also, we've got to take a look at human growth hormone. So human growth hormone, I wrote this dissertation thesis in my last year of varsity. And human growth hormone is such a prevalent thing within the body. And it's released from your brain as a hormone. And over time, it actually decreases. And that's also another thing that contributes to aging. And they've kind of hit the button that, okay, yes, how are we going to manipulate human growth hormone? Bodybuilders use synthetic human growth hormone, but then it messes up with your insulin. So you need to also have the knowledge and understanding of how to trick your body and into producing more human growth hormone. And that's essentially like, babies are full of it. And, that's why they're so plump and, they haven't got a wrinkle and they're so cute and gorgeous. And over time, it just decreases. So taking everybody's calls and taking all the information and the Philosopher's Stone and taking the Holy Grail, it all becomes a recipe.
And so we're sharing the recipe between each other, is what you're saying.
Well, pretty much. If that's it. It really is a recipe.
Or the recipe is what it is and we're the ingredients. I see what you're saying.
And if we harness the belief, the knowledge, and the physiology of our bodies, that's immortality. Or alternatively, you can take the fucking shortcut and you can get bitten by a vampire.
All right. If you find a vampire, let me know. I may volunteer.
No.
I may not, but I want to see a vampire first.
Yeah.
I'll be like, maybe? Can I get the maybe in line? Maybe I'm not.
Yeah. Can you do it? But can you get to that point of shit, now I'm really, I was a good person and now I'm an evil vampire. You've got to change that mind flip. Now I'm evil. I live in the dark.
Because no spoilers, but I know you saw Midnight Mass.
There we go.
There we go. Fantastic stuff. You were the best, Tam. What else you got for us?
That was it. That was just my intake because everyone is so brilliant.
Yes, I agree. Like I said, like Charlie said in the Rockfin chat, wow, all the callers here are just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Appreciate it.
Really?
Including you. Nice feather in the cap, cherry on top. Appreciate it, Tam Bam. You want to hang out until we finish, or are you going to bounce? Up to you.
Yeah. Hang out.
Okay. All right. You stay right there. Kelly, anything on that, my friend?
Yeah, it's interesting that when she was talking about the human growth hormone thing was, this is just a quick story real quick, that I had a buddy of mine, there was actually two brothers, right? I grew up with. And, one of them, all the men in their family were, they're like a bigger, taller man, they, good build. But Shane, he was the shorter one. He was like really small, right? He looked like a real pipsqueak, really always real fiery and shit, just full of energy. But so I don't know. He had an accident one time, and his mom took him in, and then he did some tests on him, and his hormone, he was like on supercharged, right? But they injected him with a dead man's hormone, human growth hormone, and as soon as they injected him, he said he could lay there at night and he could literally feel himself grow. This guy grew in like a year, like to the regular size of the men in his family, which was crazy because just sitting there watching this shit happen, over a 1 year lifespan where he was getting his injections, man, it was crazy. Yeah, it was just nuts.
That's pretty wild, right? Maybe that is the shortcut, partially anyway, and until you flame out. That's the unfortunate part, right? Like, I think that's the thing. Like I said, I think no matter what, even if you kind of cut to the chase and say, like, you can extend the life of the human body, yeah, but it always takes a toll, Like, again, right? The what's the third law of thermodynamics again? Entropy, right? It is what it is. I may be wrong on that if it's the third or the second or whatever, but anyway, entropy. Like, the body can only take so much, and that's why, interestingly, we're talking about this. The Philosopher's Stone is possibly maybe body hopping. Right? Body hopping.
I mean, yeah, that's what Toth did, It wasn't like he was reborn or like, put him like himself in the same body. He had to actually jump from body to body. So that's what's kind of interesting about that, or like what they call walk-ins. Yeah, because he was Thrice Megistus, he was Toth, he was Nigazeta, he was, some say even it was like the man, the philosopher or the Greek, what is his name? Mercury, I think it was, or Mars.
Mercury. Yep.
Something.
Yep. Mercury.
Yeah, Mercury. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that, it's like I said, it's body hopping. So it's, and who knows, man? That's why, you hear that too, along with these other species that are out there that are doing the same thing, that they're more or less body hopping, like they're trying to sustain their lives as their species, and they're integrating themselves with us somehow, not only through pregnancy, but through like energy exchanges. What, like I said, people call it soul, but it's just an energy exchange. It's interesting, man. Pretty good topic.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. Tim, I see you unmute there.
Well, body hopping has got, if it was that simple, it could really, everyone will be doing it, but it's not. So body hopping from a lineage point of view, your DNA, has to be the same, your blood type kind of has to be the same. It kind of has to be a similar body, and it also has to be super healthy. You've got to take care of the body that you're in to live as long as you can to go into the next body. So, where I mentioned much, much earlier in the show where all the presidents are kind of related, it's really it's a bloodline. And you've got to have also this similar, you've got to be in the family to know that this stuff exists. And you've got to take body hopping, I don't know how to explain it. It's got to intertwine and be the similar or same for it to actually happen. Now, to find your perfect body that is similar to what you were is what, 1 in a million? 1 in a million. I don't know.
Yeah, or back to what Rohan said when Rohan called in. He said, based on the population density of the 8 billion people or whatever, if you have master magic users, per se, Merlin level type stuff, estimate wise there should be about 7,000 of those people on Earth, right? Like that was wild to me, right? But where are they? What are they doing? Where are they?
I'm telling you. And I told a story earlier on Rockfin, and I said, ever since my little baby was a bubba, he used to put his hand on his heart, my hand on his heart, and my other hand on his head. And as he grew a little bit older, he still tells me to this day I have healing powers, and that's from a bubba, to a kid. And he still believes it to this day.
Like senses it. There's that whole Reiki stuff, right? Like the whole, is there something to that, right? The power of the human touch, right?
Right.
And from one to the other. I think it's a thing. And of course, intention and all the rest of that, It's like like something as simple as a touch can be, it could be horrific, right? It could be like, touch somebody and push them off a cliff, or it could be, like touch and gently, it's okay, like heal, it's unbelievable. That's the thing with humanity is we're able to do so many things, and it's just the gamut of both ends of those things. It's it's amazing stuff.
Well, I've always said there's always a place for evil. So, it's intent, like you said.
Right. It seems to be fantastic stuff. We got Jay here. Anything on that, Kelly? And if not, we'll go to Jay. Kelly first. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, man. That's interesting too. Is that like the whole Ricky thing too? Because that power, not, I could say that you have to train yourself to do some of that, but at the same time, again, that's just energy transfer, and it's energy transfer. So they even tell you too, if you learn Reiki and you go to heal somebody, you can't do it if you're in a bad mood. You shouldn't be touching or trying to heal someone with you have like those intentions already in you. You have to be, you have to have a good intention, good heart, or at a good peace of mind while you're doing the healing. You can't, because it's all energy transfer. That's when you hear people say too, like when you're going at work and you have all these different attitudes and stuff like that. You're feeling others' energy that's actually transferring. It's because they call energy vampires or whatnot. It's the same type thing. And that's where, like, actually with I think it was Mike from California, when he was talking about kind of with that stuff. It's it's transferring. It's like how would he put it? Like it was it's all about changing from one thing to another. But at the same time, yeah, it's that type of stuff. It's we're all just like anything else. Like if we even go talk about like with the Nikola Tesla, energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything, it's all energy though. It sends out a vibration and a frequency. The vibration sends out a frequency. So yeah, I mean, this is all. That's almost like alchemy as well.
Yeah, different ways to look at it. Pretty wild. So that just to point out what Matt was saying when he called earlier, real quick before we go to Jay, I had this pulled out, and there's different ways to look at all this, exactly like everybody was saying tonight. Where the hell did I put it? But there we go.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so sometimes, being an empath, especially empaths, you've got to put stuff into practice, which I have done, right? So I found that over the years, I can't handle massive crowds. I go insane because I'm feeling everybody's energy, bad mood, good mood, whatever energy, and I hate it so much. So I realized that, sometimes if one of my clients has a headache, when they leave, they're good, but I've got their headache. And I thought, well, I'm going to do the reverse. So if I'm feeling shitty, sometimes I'll go to a happy person and I will energy vampire the shit out of them. And I'll end up feeling great. Okay, it's horrible, but I did it.
I do my best to hopefully spread some of that. My mom says the same thing, by the way, that she can't go into like large crowds anymore because she feels those like that negative energy. It like seeps on her. It's like they're there, and like you kind of feel the pain in the air, like the people that like at a concert sort of thing. It's like you just know that people are there trying to forget about what's wrong for a moment, and you feel that energy. It's I get what you're saying. Yeah, amazing stuff, Tam. Good. Jay in New York, what's up, bro?
Mike,
welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
You too, man.
Thank you.
We're on with Tam and Mike and Kelly. Go right ahead. What's on your mind, my man?
I just that energy transfer thing that you've been going on in the last couple of minutes about is really got me. Is like, if you're going to go out and heal someone, you're actually going to take that with you. Like Tam was saying right at the end of what she was just saying now, is that she's talking to somebody and she ends up with her headache, and then she goes to the coffee shop and sees some guy that's a douchebag or something like that, and she energy vampires the hell out of him. Here you go, have a headache, buddy. Send it down the road. It just, I really think that's possible, that you can do that, and then you go back and you're looking at, back to the Egyptian times and stuff like that, and kind of what Tam was leading on with an earlier conversation in the chat, and then just, wouldn't it have to be one of your kids that you would do that to? Because then natural cloning, just transfer yourself into your children and teach the children your way, and then you would live on eternally through that. I look at the way that we teach children. Like, some children have obvious great opportunities over everyone else, and then there's other ones that are brilliant, but they get into the thing where it's the ABCs or the math or the everything else like that, and they don't really have the opportunity to focus on their designs or their buildings or their art or the whatever it is that they're interested in, because we're in a position where all we want to really teach them is these things to make sure that we get our, correct score for the trigger for Mike, just so they get their money. It's how many brilliant kids are we throwing away? It's like when Rohan was talking earlier, if you found out that you were a wizard when you were a little kid, they probably would. They'd probably throw you in an institution, or your parents would hide you.
Yeah, they put
and then if you grew, you'd be.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I really think that's really crazy about it is my brother. He was really smart when he was a little kid because he was the youngest, and watching me do my math homework and my building models and architecture and stuff like that. So he was just like exposed to it. So asking questions. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You talk to him a little bit. So obviously he's smarter than all the other kids in the class about something like that because he's been exposed to it. Well, he wasn't paying attention in class, and they said that's because he had the ADHD. No, he didn't. He was bored.
Yeah.
So they put him on Ritalin.
Like too smart. Yeah, too smart. I was like that too. Like I was not. I don't think I have any autism spectrum type stuff, but I was too smart for school for sure. And I don't mean that like to brag or anything. I was just bored out of my damn mind. I was like in a comatose state for most of school, and I aced everything because like I could kind of check out into this, like story world I created in my head, but also at the same time be able to absorb the things the teacher was just droning on about, like most things. Math was not so easy, but everything else to me was just so like I could pick it up, I could read it fast. It was like, okay, like I got it. Right? Can we take the test now? Let me go play. But you get dragged through the mud for an entire week, or 10 days or 2 weeks, and
just for that Friday test.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, God, I could have done this Monday. Like, but again, right? The same thing.
The whole time, Stacey McFarlane is twirling her pencil in her hair.
Yeah.
When she's taking the test, and
yeah,
the other guy is doing, how people solve problems on their own, and how we interact with each other. It's just.
And luckily for me, right, I didn't act out. Like I went inward, like when I was young. So, but some people, right, we're young, we're still babies, we're still formative age, we're still trying to figure those things out, and some people can't. And so instead of being bored inwardly, they act out outwardly. But again, right, Ritalin is not the answer. I think we can all probably agree on that.
Well, here's a copy of The Stand, You're bored, you already know everything in the class. You got an A on everything so far the whole year long. Here's The Stand, here's the Bible, here's the Akasha record, here's the whatever. Give them something else to do. That's one of the daughter, Josephine. She has a teacher, Mrs. Souza, and they're talking about this thing with all the kids that are actually readers, because our kids are in a bad position right now because the ones who had parents that paid attention when they were doing the Zoom and the homeschooling and everything else like that over the past couple of years when we were checking out our ordeal of life, they're brilliant. But the kids whose parents did nothing or anything else like that, I mean, there's kids in the first grade that don't know the alphabet yet. So you almost have to divide the class into several groups. Well, now they're having talks about your life is a bucket. Do you want to be a bucket dipper or a bucket filler? Do you fill someone's bucket with your hope and your knowledge and everything else like that? Or do you take from someone's bucket and take their hope and knowledge? And then it's kind of a philosophy that, well, it has to be a bit of both. If you're in a bad mood, you want to talk to all your friends and everything else like that, and you hope that you cheer them, they give you a boost and cheer you up. But in the same aspect, by you ditching your car accident or the wife hit your ladder with the car, it cost you $1,000, whatever, you're bringing everybody else down,
Yeah.
so it's like an odd little balance that we keep amongst ourselves. And then I think that, you know, all the way back to the temples of the sun god, where they were making, you know, people into gods and stuff like that. You know, were they just transferring people's bodies into somebody else's body at that time? And then, you know, it was like, hey, surprise, you're now the old guy and you're going to die. And, you know, all the aides and everything else like that are doing their job anyway, since you're pooing in your pants. But
right. Kelly, anything on this?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was just thinking too, and Jay just kind of mentioned it real quick, but maybe that's why these so-called super rich, you know, or these people that's been around, let's say, you know, the oldies. Maybe that's the reason why that they're trying to push science for cloning. Because if they're doing transfer, they need a body transfer, and they want the same body, you know, because they like the way they look. Maybe they're just doing a cloning and doing that body transfer into the new clone. Interesting.
If that's the case, Kelly, the only reason why they're doing that is they want the glory and the fame that goes along with their old body. Do you really want to live forever in your body? I mean, in all honesty, I'd be more than willing to give mine up for a 22-year-old right now. You know? Because
that's what I'm saying. If you clone a body, like say you were your 20-year-old self, and then you put your essence into that body, but it's still you. You know what I'm saying? So it looks like you feel, I guess they want the same look or the same feel, you know, the whole glory of, you know, this is what I look like, what I want to stay and look like. But at the same time, you know, I don't know, man, that type of shit is, that's interesting too. That's the whole point, like the clone thing we were talking about. That's another thing I'm probably thinking why they're trying to push that whole cloning thing.
I mean, all that super science stuff that they're doing with genetics and mutating and everything else like that, it's always the question of why. Why are you doing that? You know, what do you hope to gain? And can anything really good come of that? You know, you're talking about the top, 1/100% of people that are ever going to have the ability to access knowledge or technology like that, just because of the financial aspect of it. And they could then have done it for thousands and thousands of years, and we would never know. You know, we wouldn't know that they had that technology, because wouldn't you keep it secret if you had it? You know, it's like, if you find the fountain of youth, you put up a sign and, you know, so lemonade stand style on the roadside?
No, hell no, because then you got a pilgrimage and it gets drunk up, and then it's limited. Everything's limited, right? You know.
Well, I mean, you have to steal that energy from somewhere. I mean, if you're going to have eternal life, you're going to have to take life to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, there's a balance that has to be had.
Therein lies the rub, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's more.
I'll say the rest of that thought for the afterwards.
Thank you. Very nice of you.
I just, you know, that whole, I don't know. I mean, I really think that we know everything. I mean, you know, Michael Strange, Kelly, Tam, Daryl, Rohan, all of us, we know everything. Even everybody. It's just a matter of putting your hand in there and grabbing a hold of the piece of knowledge that you want and pulling it out and processing it. I really do. I think we know everything there is to know about everything. It's just, we're dumbed down as kids. We don't let our imaginations go the way that they were supposed to. The mental yoga kind of thing that I say.
And that's 30 years ago. What about today? Holy fuck. Like, man.
Right.
Talk about indoctrination. Like, it's gotten worse. Yeah. It's getting worse. Right?
It's...
Well, that's... Okay.
Go ahead, Tim.
Kindergarten and first grader, yeah, it's bad. But go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I just think it's, let's just go back to the kids. You talked about the ADHD kids and the ADD kids. I'm a firm fucking believer that those kids are not what society says. Those kids are fucking special, and in a very good way. They are super smart, but they're super smart in a specific thing that excites them. And I feel that the school system around the world slows those kids down.
Hell yeah.
They really do. They slow them so fucking down that's what they think is normal. And, you get parents who have to follow the system because what else? Then you're not considered a person or a good member of society. And
your kid's always in trouble at school. You have to take time off of work while you're always getting called into the principal's office.
Yeah, and that's not me. I'm not that. My kid's school knows what kind of mama I am. They don't say fucking shit to me. I will go in there guns blazing. You don't tell my kid nothing.
Metaphorically guns blazing for the algorithms out there, keeping track of every word we say.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
you're fine.
Okay,
We're good. We're good.
I'm a good citizen, whatever. So my point is,
honest, Tam. That was like right from the heart.
Like really, I'm so passionate about kids. Kids need to flourish. They need to grow. They each have their own thing, and each of them comes with their own special ability. Whether and it might be even superhuman. But because they're so dumbed down, and because of the food being full of steroids, and before the water full of fluoride, and because of society, they get dumbed down, and these superhuman abilities get withered away into nothing. And they all are really are superhuman. And I mean, like take for instance me. I mean, I didn't open a fucking book until I was in my 4th year of university because I listened.
Just listen. Yeah.
And I didn't. I'm a very adamant person. I'm a very stubborn person. I will do what I want to do, and not even my parents could tell me what to do. So, and I think that helped me a bit to where I am as a person I am today, because I'm so open-minded about everything. And I think these kids, these parents this generation that's coming now, these kids now who are going to grow up are going to be so much more open-minded to supernatural abilities than their parents were. Yeah, that's where we're evolving. That's what I think.
Yeah, interestingly too, regarding that, like the whole contentious kid thing, is Albert Einstein of all people had a very, very contentious childhood with authority and with his teachers, because like he said, he's got several famous quotes describing the education system as broken because he was lost. Like he was lost, and they thought he was the dumbest thing they'd ever seen, right? Because he was so smart, he was disinterested. And so again, right, like what you were saying, like, and we've talked about with Ritalin or whatever else, like what did somebody else say in the chat here? They gave them not Ritalin, what's the other one? Anyway, like giving kids
Prozac
drugs.
is one that I see people with adults. Prozac is one of the ones I see that people give to adults. They go through depression or divorce or death of a family member, and they just get on the Prozac, and it's like you're dumbed down. You need to feel that. You need to process that. You need to.
Yeah, as part of it. Adderall. That's the one in the chat there. So
yes.
Adderall. Yeah. But I mean, so point being, right? Imagine a world where instead of allowing Einstein to flourish, they gave him Adderall instead. You know what I mean? And he
wouldn't have the nuclear bomb.
Well, that's for sure. But the Nazis may have won then, right? So, you know what I'm saying? It's like those types of things, right?
History change,
right? I'm just saying, right? Like it's pretty big. It's pretty big that some of the implications, and like Tam said, a lot of these kids are like superheroes. They're like they're literally. There's again, you guys know. Everybody knows it's just been around kids. They're incredibly smart, and they learn incredibly fast.
I just want to give you an example.
They're unbelievably resilient too. I mean, dude, the little boy, he loves writing. He's building ramps. He's picking up the scrap pieces of plywood out of the garage and dragging them out and putting bricks up there. And he's ramping. I come outside one day and he's got his helmet on and his bicycle on, and he's running down the driveway as fast as he can. And whoop, there he goes. And it's like, oh, good God, I see a head injury coming. but I'm okay. They get up, they're resilient. Look at the little kids that do the skateboarding things and all that stuff, the parkour, however you say that.
Parkour. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they seriously bust their ass 100 times before they actually get the video on TikTok that goes viral.
Oh, yeah, because you got to get that shit just right, man. Let me tell you. What's up? Quick shout out to PDG. What's up? Coming over from the French chat. Appreciate that. PDG says, I think Einstein was sent home as an idiot at 6 because he wasn't talking. Like I said,
that is true.
Look up some of the quotes Einstein has about actual education. It is to the point, cuts to the bone, because he was there, he lived it. He was brilliant in a broken system. And what do you get? You get bored children. And again, back to the drugs and like medicating kids. Notice it's not about the kids. It's about the convenience of, right? Like managing those children, right? It's for the convenience of the teachers, right? They're like, oh, this guy's just this kid, this gal, this whatever is just too much. We got to do something about this, right? So you make the recommendation, you got the psychiatrist involved, all the shit, but it's because the teacher can't handle the kid, right? Like that's what it's about.
Not to mention it's covered by insurance.
Don't get me started on big pharma. Don't get me started on big pharma.
Well, I mean, really, we're headed to we're headed Brave New World with Aldous Huxley. Just give everybody Soma,
Yep.
The garbage guy gets 8, the accountant gets 1,
Yep.
We'll legalize marijuana. We'll decriminalize, drug possessions. We're rapidly heading that way. Now we have the opportunity in the next couple of months where we're going to be able to slip into the metaverse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't that sound dirty? Slip into the metaverse. Oh, yeah.
A nice 5-minute commercial. Clifford the Big Red Dog. We took the kids to go see Clifford the Big Red Dog. And there was a good 5-minute commercial with the giraffes and the lions and the elephants and the safari and the cartoon characters for the metaverse, geared 100% towards children.
Yeah, it's horrific, and this is the whole point. The whole point is that we're not catering society to brilliant children. We're we're annoyed by them because they make us work harder, and so we medicate them, right? Like that's the way the world works. It's unfortunate. Go ahead.
I'm so annoyed with the system. I have a massive, massive problem with authority. Huge. It is so disgusting how much I hate the school system. My kid, let me give you an example. My kid has to go to school now. It's exam time, right? So now he has to write subjects on shit he doesn't give a shit about. So obviously he's not going to do well. Yes, we studied, but he's not really interested. So it goes to show that he's not going to do very well. But throw ancient Egyptians in his path, and my kids, yesterday when we were doing revision, his mind exploded. He was talking about, but Mom, how did the pyramids, I'm telling you, it was aliens and this and this and this. And it broke my heart to tell him, my boy, you need to understand you are so excited about this. We can do as much research as you want in the school vacation time. But right now we have to study what the book says we have to study for your exam. And it killed me to say that.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. The kids are circles putting into a square school system. How do circles fit into squares?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate and crazy. We're having this conversation. People in all the chats are like kind of discussing like their similar childhoods, right? Where it was like school was not a challenge. I was bored to tears, and they treated me like I was just dumb. And yeah, Robert over there on Rockfin, I see you there. Staring out the window, dreaming of being Superman. I mean, this is the type of stuff. It's like. Obviously, right? Like, kids need their playtime, but for crying out loud, we got to give them some things. I remember back in the day, guys, when we didn't have the internet or anything, we had to like read the encyclopedia, right? So I remember spending an entire summer, a whole summer, right, in my grandma's place, like laying on the ground with the D volume open, reading about dinosaurs. And I read literally, so it's like 3 pages or something, right? And that's all you get. And I read those 3 pages 1,000 times over the summer. You know what I mean? It's like you just want to learn what's exciting, right? And so How is it possible to make learning exciting? Like, holy fuck! Like, why can't we just make learning exciting? Again, right? So the challenge is on us to make that happen for these brilliant children, not medicate them because they're a pain in our ass, right? It's gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why we have conversations like this here. You know, it's the seed, Mike. You know, we put the little seed in everybody's head. You know, this thought process that we have. You know, it's like you come to the show with a little seed, and then it grows into all these crazy different conversations throughout the night. And that's brilliant. So we have to make sure that when you're in a situation where you're dealing with kid or even other coworkers or stuff like that, not necessarily bringing up the aliens or the Bigfoot or the vampires or whatever, you're bringing up the fact that everybody's here to share knowledge with each other, because if we all share knowledge about what we're doing, we're going to be better and faster and, you know, at it. And instead of putting all those things down, I'm just going to put my head down and I'm going to go to work and do my job and go home and not care about anybody or anything, you know?
Yeah. Amen.
So I can do those trigger words, you know?
Yeah.
It really escapes me how people can just populate the entire population and generalize them. People aren't general to each other. They're individuals. They have different interests. They are born differently. It's so completely different. And the school needs to change to cater to these individuals. I mean, Elon Musk has a little school and there's 25 kids there and all his kids go there, but it's catered to them individually. And if you're artistic, then they teach you everything about art. And if you're engineer-minded, then it's all about engineering.
And math.
And that's how...
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's how it should be. And I don't care. Yes, I think he's the biggest dick on the planet, but he's still doing the right thing for his kids.
I don't know if he's the biggest dick on the planet. There's some pretty dickish people. I can name half a dozen that are probably more dickish than that guy. But anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Jay from New York.
Whoa! Not on the list. Definitely not on the list.
Definitely
not on the list.
Definitely. But there's just...
It's sad.
I mean, we have to do it. It's like, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And I mean, I think that's kind of like in the position that we're at.
Isn't that the damn truth? Isn't that the damn truth? You want something right, you got to do it your damn self. And there you go. Look, I'm telling you, you know why I'm here? Because I drove professionally for a living. And I listened to the
mind
radio.
Fuck us all?
No, I listened to the radio every damn day. And I was like, these people are all incredibly dumb. I was like, I'm nobody, and I could do a better job than these assholes. And so I did. And here we are. And I'm just telling you, like, I'm not an expert in anything. But damn it, I know enough to say the stuff on the radio right now is trash. And, well, turn it on and prove me wrong. We're running out of time, guys. Kelly, anything else? What we got you here, brother? I know we've been talking about a lot about kids in schools and stuff. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was just going to add, too, that those kids are called star children. You know, they're star seeds. And everybody has something, but it's, the government knows what they're doing. And Tam Bam kind of, talked about, like, with chemicals and stuff. You know, the Germans were using on their own people with fluoride, which, dumps people down. There's nothing for that shit that's even good for your teeth. It's not. All the poison and all the Ritalin and all that shit that, and it's the same thing with me. I have the same story too. I was a kid. I was really, math was my biggest, I loved the subject. And there was times where the teacher was doing the math problem on the board. I did the whole subject for that whole chapter, and I put it on her desk, and she thought I cheated. She even called me to the principal's office, had my mom come pick me up. I was like, are you fucking kidding me, man? I know how to do this shit. It's fucking easy for me. But after that, it was just, I didn't give a shit about school anymore because they just think you're dumb. They want you to swallow the shit they're giving you on a plate, regurgitate it back up, and boom, you get an A. That's not learning anything. But these star children are worldwide, you know. And what's crazy is I remember back in the 80s is when they had this show on TV where they were talking about this exact same thing. Well, China, they were having contests where actually they did like contests where if your children had a special thing that could do some shit like that, they wanted to, you know, have like a contest and see what's up. Well, they were finding out, like it was a little girl, one of her powers, she could touch it was a dead plant, and she touched it, it came back to life and bloomed.
Wow.
So it's these, I mean, like everybody has got something. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there have been crushing. As soon as you come out the womb, they want to crush your soul. You know what I mean? They want to crush everything that that you have inside you, that, you know, that we know we have. And obviously, this, let's say it was, you know, a lot of people say it's ancient technology or whatever that these people have done. Maybe it's just something that they, you know, something was taught to them. You know, again, it could have been, you know, another species. But again, if you look at some of the stuff that's being built, they had something, you know. It's like we're going back around in the same circle. And that's all I wanted to add to that too was, you know, yeah, the kids, you know, these star children, you know, that's another thing you can probably look up. But yeah, they're, you know, a lot of them, they started coming out in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've been around everywhere. There's a video of even one, I don't know if it's real or not, but this guy's walking, he was in Russia. He's walking through a forest, and he has this lady, and this lady's holding, like, this little girl. Looks like she's throwing her up in the air, but the little girl's floating above her. And the mother's arms are above, you know, kind of like, the girl, I would say, about maybe 2 feet above her, and, you know, the mother's arms are, like, out there trying to, like, you know, was to grab her, the little girl. But as soon as they seen this man come around the corner with his dog, because the guy was filming, you know, his walks, and he sees them, and he kind of stops and was looking at it like fucking amazement. But then these people, you know, she grabs the girl, and, you know, because the girl floats back down to her, she grabs the girl, and they take off, and, you know, into the forest on that path. But that, you know, that type of stuff too. I mean, I believe there was times where I had dreams. I believe I can fly. I'm pretty sure I can. I just got to make sure I find that path or whatever they closed off on us to, you know.
Yeah. Amen.
Fine.
Amen. And,
practice over water, Kelly.
Right.
That's my advice to you.
There you go. There we go. Quick announcement too. Algo Rhythm, we got in the chat. What's up, buddy? Him and I are going to do a stream coming up soon. One of these weekends, either next weekend or the following. We'll figure out a time. We'll let you know. So it is coming, and we'll have a dual stream. Yeah, Algo's fantastic, and his name's Mike as well. Mike in Colorado, and Mike in Vegas here. We'll get together and we'll talk shit, and we'll do our thing, and we'll hang out and we'll have a good time. So there we go. All right, so we're out of here. You guys, we went long because this is the best part, right? This is why we do the third hour, by the way. So if nobody's interested and I laid an egg for the night, we'll just trim it a little bit early and it's all good, right? Try again tomorrow. But if we have brilliant people having brilliant conversation, there's no need to stop it because some asshole tells us time's up. We're going to keep talking, right? And so thank you to Jay. Thank you to Tam. Thank you to Kelly. You guys are amazing. I appreciate the input tonight. And everybody else who called in, Joe in Florida, of course, Rohan, Night Stalker, Matt. I think I got everybody, and then everybody here tonight. If I missed somebody, my apologies. A lot going on. But yeah, let's get the hell out of here. You guys are the best. And Jay, you got an outro for us? Anything else from you guys real quick, Kelly or Tam Bam, before we take off and then get to the outro?
You should call it the Mike Squared.
Mike Squared. All right, we got Mike Squared coming up. Catch that, Algo, with the Mike Squared.
Man, the only thing I got to say is everybody have a good.
Thanks a lot, brother. You too. Jay, you got a J-tro for us? What's up, Scooby Bear? I see you. I didn't say hi. I see you on D-Live. I see you there, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us. Who else did I miss? Let's do real quick before we take off. Robert says this, on Rockfin, the teachers are not allowed to make learning exciting anymore. Too many bureaucratic fingers interfering in their classrooms. And there you go. There you go.
I'll touch that one after hours.
Don't get me started. All right. Go ahead, Jay. Let's do an outro. You got something ready for us? If you do, I'll cue outro music.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I stole it from the Night Stalker.
Nice. Perfect. Well, because Derek's brilliant and he loves to share. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, music. Go right ahead, sir.
I have to say though, but you're only 10 days behind now. It used to be 2 weeks. But synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. And that's Carl Jung.
Ah, yes. That's a good one. I actually had the other Carl Jung. Hold on. Here's another Carl Jung. Ready?
Yep.
Speaking of alchemy tonight, we got the double J-tro. We're going to do a mic outro and a J-tro. This is other Carl Jung quote, which I said earlier. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. High five, brother. Boom.
Yo.
There you go.
Fantastic show after fantastic show.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Can you do the other thing at the end though? Not the be sure, be strong, be true.
You want me to
the
do
other
that?
one?
I'll do that.
The other one.
What's the other one?
From Grandma.
Oh, yeah. All right, here's the deal. So, Troubled Minds goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. And the bad news is we're done for tonight. The good news is, God willing, we have tomorrow. God willing. So there you go. That's from my grandmother. She'd always say, hasta mañana, God willing. So that's where I took that from. God willing, we have tomorrow. So 7 p.m. Pacific, more Troubled Minds tomorrow. There you go. See, Jay lets me know people listen. Jay listens. What's up, buddy? All right, so we're finishing up. Now, this is the thing, right? Like I said, stay tuned for coming up soon to a weekend, this weekend or next weekend. Algo and I are going to do a show together. And again, everybody knows you're invited to be on the show. Let me know. TroubledMindsRadio@gmail. Get me on Discord, troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link. Just come say hi. Again, we don't have to be Richard Dolan or Linda Moulton Howe. We just have to be us. We have to be us. That's it. I'm me, you're you, together we're us. And as we finish, how's it go, Tam? Be sure.
Be sure. Be strong. Be true.
Be true.
Hasta mañana.
Hasta mañana. God willing. Thank you for listening, guys. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night.
Bye.
Oh.
Wet chihuahuas. I'm telling you, we sound like wet chihuahuas. Ow.
I can't do it, that's why. So I just got ow. Okay, guys, keep well. Bye.
Have a good one, Tam.
Good night, Tam.
All right, 7 p.m. Pacific. God willing, see you tomorrow. Also, by the way,
that was on the air, Mike.
Yeah, we're still.
Damn it.
It was all in the air. By the way, also, if you guys want to hang out, we do usually click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Come say hi. A lot of folks hang out after the show and for a little bit and continue talking. So there you go. Catch you there. Again, have a fantastic night. See you tomorrow. God willing.